I'm just thinking about the problem when everybody got $1 million. Then that $1 million won't be that much. Or do you
right. Yeah. So
it's
this
basically
leads
inflation the.
This leads very much so into Quinton's like ideal society or
economic
ideal
theory,
system where
political theory, whatever you want to call it.
Essentially money is not going to have any sort of relevance anymore, because once people have enough money where they can do whatever they want, money becomes minute, and that's when you start focusing on people's happiness as a whole, right? And then but you're like, oh, but people still need to like work to make money, and then easy solution for that is automation.
Yes.
Right? And then we start focusing so money is no longer a problem. We can take money out of the equation now because we've all reached a point where everyone has enough money to do whatever they want. Right? So we take money out of the equation now by saying, hey, you don't need to work anymore. We have robots that will do your jobs for you. Mm-hmm. And if you want to work in society, you do so because you want to, because it makes you happy. If it doesn't make you happy, if you want to just fucking sit at home and play video games and jerk off all day, cool, do that too. Like whatever you want to do that makes you happy, man. Mm-hmm. Just don't infringe on other people's rights, essentially.
If you've never heard of it, this political theory is called a resource-based economy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't even think that this is something wild. I think this is the inevitable future.
I'm so glad you said that.
The only thing is, like, how far are we away from that?
Yeah, I can agree with that too. Like, even though I love the idea of a stakeholder capitalism, inevitably it's going to get to a point where once everyone's on the same level playing field and everyone is taken care of, you're going to get to a point where I think either two things are going to happen. Money is going to become completely useless, so we get rid of money and we find something else that brings like a quote unquote monetary value thing. So for example, like resources, like when you take away money, what else do people need? Well, resources, right?
Yeah, it's just providing the needs to people. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, exactly. And so the only thing that I'm like would be worried about, or people would be worried about, is maybe people, corporations, governments banding together to have control over said resources, right? And then dictating who gets those resources.
Sure.
I kind of like the idea. I just don't see it implementing. Like humans gonna human, and if you take everything, like we're basically building this basis on that everybody is happy and living the dream, basically.
Well, that comes from like what brings you happiness.
Yeah, but I don't think that, like.
I feel like we are already. No, continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. I think like happiness is. I don't necessarily. If you have to work 7 days a week, that doesn't necessarily make you unhappy.
Yeah, people should do whatever makes them happy.
Yeah.
So if they want to work, they can totally work.
Yeah, but I don't see it. I don't think people with being self-regulated. I don't think people are able to being that self-regulated. I think there will be exposures and flaws eventually.
Oh, for sure. It's not utopian.
I think there's gonna be some level of people that are like gonna be like when we brought this up yesterday, like some amount of people who are not going to be happy because they aren't finding meaning in their life, or maybe they want to be malicious towards other people. To some extent, like not everything's going to be perfect. Like we can't paint this as a utopian picture, because it's not one. Essentially, it's like we've come to a point in that society, I find, where money doesn't buy you happiness anymore, because money has no value. So therefore, the things that you want to do that are going to make you happy, you just have access to regardless.
It's definitely an end goal theory. I'm like, I understand the
sure.
unrealisticness of it, like compared to like today's standards. And I think that we would need a transitional period. That's why I'm not married to socialism, communism, or like what a stakeholder capitalism or anything. But I see the inherent value in all of those theories, because I think that this would work best if we transitioned our way through these things, and then made our way into a resource-based economy.
But aren't all those things just like an inevitable step on the way? Like this
Yeah,
is a
exactly.
process. You can
Exactly.
already see it beginning, right?
Yeah.
Like I mean, how long in the future? Like it's not that long into the future where you just won't have enough jobs for the amount of people that are around, right?
I know, right? Automation is
Yeah.
literally
Automation, like
inherently opposed to
industrialization,
capitalism.
Exactly. The only reason why it's not happening right now, even though we have the means to do it, is because of how our society works.
Yeah, and how
It's just
expensive
not
that
realistic
technology
to
is and
just
stuff.
implement that just
Mhm.
like pan, you know?
Yeah. Yeah,
But
essentially with
process-
automation, it gets cheaper and cheaper as we go, right? Of course, we can't
Yeah,
automate
yeah,
everything right now because it's too expensive. But once it gets cheap enough for a corporation to automate something instead of paying a worker, they'll do that. It's inevitable, right? But what
Exactly.
happens with that?
Yeah.
It's incompatible with capitalism because what you have is then
Exactly.
you're laying off a
Yeah.
bunch of people. There's no work for them because you're removing the work for them. Well, what do? The corporations are now just hoarding the wealth, and the bottom people are just getting fucked. So that's why we have to move away from capitalism.
I can see the system working out at a lower stage, like a community stage or the community spectra. But I
don't you-
don't. I mean,
don't you see how capitalism is like in the end destroying itself?
yeah,
Basically?
for sure. I just see that. I just don't really. Even if I agree with you, I don't see realistic way out of it. I'm not thinking capitalism is the end goal or the final state that our countries are being run. But I think
Nobody
I
can
don't
really
just-
tell how it's going to happen either, for sure.
No,
So
yeah.
that's a fair
No,
point.
yeah.
It's definitely going to be
Yeah.
like it could be a revolution where where if we switch to socialism, where we violently overthrow the what would be the
yeah, for sure.
the bourgeois, whatever the fuck. Or it could be like a peaceful transition where we like democratically move our way into that direction, for sure. I think both of those are viable ways, but like trying to envision it is definitely complex.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, for sure. Well, that's a nice one. Okay, well, from each according to was that actually a question though? It wasn't, right?
From each. Wait, what?
Where were we? I think we were at the environment and jumping to capitalism, and then
Oh
jump.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
It's all connected, right? So.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Well, I think we agree.
Oh yeah.
On some.
This is the one we all agreed on. The
Yeah.
last one we did.
Well, should we just jump to the next one?
Yeah.
From each according to his ability to each according to his need is a fundamentally good idea.
Yes. This is very similar to the stake capitalism he just talked about.
Yeah.
Mhm.
This is just literally communism. That's literally like pretty much word for word part of communism's definition.
Yeah.
No. It's said by Kant, but like it doesn't force communism.
Oh no, it doesn't. No, it's just a
the
part of
idea-
communism.
The idea he was talking about this, I forgot the term, stake capitalism or whatever.
Stakeholder capital.
Yeah. This would also fulfill this.
That's true.
Stake.
Actually, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice idea as long as it's balanced properly.
Yeah.
As long as it gets unbalanced, it will need to be corrected or regulated in some kind of other way.
Yeah. A common criticism of communism, which would be a criticism of this, is that what if there's jobs that need to be done that people don't want to do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
We just automate them.
And yeah, and of course, the simple answer is just automation, right? But you will literally never see communists arguing this point because they're fucking bird brain, dude. I don't understand why they always miss this point. It's probably because people think of it as like a utopian idea, but I don't know.
Honestly, I'm not a communist, right? But I feel like the way actual people who like address themselves as communists, like they shoot themselves in the foot in every time they talk about it.
It's literally a LARP, dude. It's so fucking frustrating. Like it's like it's just aesthetics. Yeah, I feel it. It's part of the reason why I don't like identify as like communist or socialist necessarily, while I like still see the value in those theories and the importance of them and stuff. For sure,
yeah.
I agree.
It's kind of like, especially in Sweden, where we tend to talk about feminists, or at least in history, we don't call a lot of people don't call themselves feminists. They call them women's
Women's rights advocates.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So basically, that's
Avoid the dirty word.
exactly.
Yeah, I feel it.
Avoid the dirty word.
It kind of comes back to my little saying again, where it's like defend ideas, not people. It's like sometimes just sayings by themselves, like slogans, can just be bad, and maybe we should just express what the slogan's trying to say instead of using the slogan.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of easy to just follow the line, but when you boil it down to how it's applied, then it's basically becomes another problem.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's like this culture, like calling everyone a racist, right? Like, I mean, if I say something racist, it doesn't necessarily mean I am a racist, right?
Oh yeah, actions can be racist, but the people might not be racist.
Yeah, that also doesn't mean that what I said isn't racist just because I'm not a racist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can say something racist without being a racist myself.
Yeah, exactly.
But if someone calls you out on that and saying like, "Hey, like what you just said was racist," and you defend that by saying like, "Oh well, it's not racist. I didn't mean it in a racist manner." It's like, okay, but what you said was inherently racist. As long as you recognize that, I don't see it.
Just be stupid. Right?
You have to tiptoe around with these people though too. I've had conversations with people that I know have done racist things, and the way I approach it is I say, "Okay, so I want you to recognize that this thing that you did is technically racist by definition. I'm not accusing you of being a racist. I'm just saying the action that you have like done or whatever you did is technically racist.
The idea behind those words, right? Is
exactly.
A racist idea.
Yeah, because people think that you're attacking their character personally when you say you did a racist thing. They think you're calling them racist.
No, I agree.
That's a really interesting topic, because we had this discussion before about gender pronouns.
Yeah.
And offensive slurs, really. I mean, me calling someone a retard for acting stupid is sure. It's not a public, politically acceptable word. But how carefully are you going to, do you have to tread, basically? And what? Of course, you can choose the forum to do it, but me calling a buddy of mine retard is not in any way offensive to retards. You get the idea?
Not in its intention,
I get the concept.
Yeah.
I take an approach, like my opinion on this one is more that like it's pretty simple to just change my own personal language, and I take like a harm reduction approach to most things. Almost all of my opinions are based on like harm reduction and stuff, and maximizing human happiness. So to me, it feels very simple for me to just change my language and not use it. But like I do get like the arguments on the other side. I just find that like with how simple it is essentially to just kind of work out of it, like I tend to just try and avoid using anything, because I know that you can measure the harm that using this language does on a mass scale. Like if we didn't normalize using like any kind of slurs and stuff like that, you'll tend to find that some people, like it might not be you that's misusing it, but when it becomes normalized, other people misuse it, and then that's kind of where it like becomes a problem.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it also depends on the environment, right? Like, if you're playing like a game that is like just inherently toxic, then if someone says the R word, you shouldn't be like super offended by that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, depending on how closed the space is, maybe you could make a pretty decent argument. I've seen arguments made before where it's like, oh, just literally you and your friend, like playing games or whatever, and you're calling each other whatever words and stuff. Like, I don't know how much harm is going to be seen from that. The only harm I could see is that maybe now you're more normalized into using that language, and maybe you might use it in the rest of your day-to-day life, and that's the only argument I could see against that, and I don't know how strong that is.
But there's another thing, like this whole, like not about the word itself or if it's bad or not, but about the whole culture of that, right? Like I see one big problem is when the people who are defending the concept of not saying those words are more offended by those words than the people who are actually attacked by those words. This is very strange to me.
Yeah, it depends.
I agree with that. Like, it's in my opinion, I think everybody is being victimized in modern day society.
Yeah.
Like, it's so easy to take the honorable stick, or like, hey, listen up, you're a bad guy, and calling out others. Of course, it's a good idea, but I tend to having a bit of a problem when it goes too far. Yeah, let's. I don't really have a good example. You guys talk now. I'm trying to make something up.
I could give you a good example of where I get my positions from. So the N-word is a pretty good one that like I have a pretty good like way to do it. Essentially, like, should white people use the N-word? I find that like there might be some white people who may use the N-word, like, so like say soft A or whatever kind of thing, right? Because it's usually the two ways you can say it: soft A, hard R.
Yeah. I think.
Now, I might personally like say I might use the N-word with a soft A. A soft A means that like Nigga, like my homie, you know, is usually how they kind of are using that word. And then the hard R is normally like much more derogatory. Using the word in general, I might, like, let's say I use the N-word with the soft A. As like a reference to my homies and stuff, right, or whatever, like my friends, my brothers or whatever, and I use it in like a positive way. I might want to defend the use of the N-word now because I only use it in a positive way, but predominantly the way that most white people use it, if you really think about it, like, it's not really hard to find many examples of white people using the N-word in most cases that they're using it as a negative slight against black people. So what you would do is you would just substitute, like, you take the word, the N-word that they used, and then you'd remove it from that sentence, and then what word were they actually trying to like use here? And normally it's a negative word. They're using the N-word as a filler for like a negative word. And so even though I don't personally like maybe do that and use that word in that way, I recognize that it's generally, the reason why it's frowned upon is because most people that like do use it would use it in that negative way.
Is that synonymous with all white people, or just like every people in general?
Well, this is just particular to the N-word because like white people tended to use that word to historically oppress black people.
Yeah, but that's also kind of just like walking around my question. That doesn't answer my question. So is it synonymous with just white? Like, is it synonymous with all white people or all people that use the word?
I don't know what you mean by that. Can you rephrase that?
So, for example, Detroit, predominantly black neighborhood. Like most of people who live in Detroit are very black.
Sure.
Let's say a white person grows up in Detroit their entire life.
With the cultural argument? Like, are they allowed to use the N-word because they were part of that culture?
Are they allowed to use it then?
I would say yes.
I mean, I could see the utility in it, sure. Like, it kind of makes sense. Maybe that would be, like, so realistic. Like, how do I put this? How do you know? How do you prove that somebody, like, if you just see this guy, like, on forums or whatever online blasting this word, how do you ever prove that this person should be allowed to use it because of that? Do you know what I'm saying?
Right. But so, like, why is it inherently that all black people are allowed to use the word? Is it just because they're black?
Well, you can very easily verify that, like, they're black usually. I mean, maybe not online. Maybe that argument could be used online too. But
what if the person is like black but they grew up in China? Right.
It's more of just like
no introduction to the word.
Oh, yeah, maybe, I guess. I mean,
like, that's my issue with that argument.
Yeah, I truly agree with you. Like, I think that either everyone can use it or no one can use it,
or nobody can use it. Like,
Destiny's presented that argument before online, and I see the merit in it for sure.
There's also another example too. I had one I know, because like the thing is, we have a different word for that, but it's basically the same in German, right?
Yep.
But for example, if you look at older generations in our country, like probably a generation that like died out by now, I guess.
Yeah.
But the way they were socialized, they just used that word, right?
Okay.
Even though it's not a good word, even though like it went so far that actually a sweet you could buy in the supermarket was called by that name.
Oh
right?
wow.
So it was a very normal word, even though it was very like related to the slave thing, right?
Yeah.
The thing about that is though, like for example, my grandfather, right? He always used that word when it came to black people, right?
Yeah.
But he also fought against the Nazis, right?
Right.
So he's definitely not a racist, right? This is just the way he was socialized. He didn't know a different word. So, like,
Yeah, I think it's the same in Sweden. Like we have this like throughout all history, we had this word for chocolate chocolate balls.
Okay. Yeah.
We basically call them N balls, but in Sweden.
Okay. Yeah.
And that was like when I grew up, like I used that word. There was nothing.
You didn't mean anything negative by it. It was like a filler for like
No.
a probably just like a funny word or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And
so if you just grow up using that word and you have no negative connotation to it, and then let's say you then come over to America and you're like, oh hey, do you have any of these used word? And people are immediately calling you a racist or like calling you out for all this. Why is that also socially acceptable? Like, how do you know that they meant any sort of like negative connotation towards that?
That's just ignorance then though, right? Because you are not like aware of like how that word was historically used in the US. That doesn't really give you a free pass, you know?
Why would it not be? Because that's what you've known your entire life. That's like this, like how you grew up in society, like with your culture using that word without any sort of like. But to say it's like, oh, it's just ignorance because you don't know how it was used in the States, that doesn't make it okay. Like that's such a backwards-handed argument, in my opinion.
Do you know
I would actually say that it's ignorance on the part of the people who are who are offended by that.
Yeah, I guess we can just see that on both sides. Sure.
It goes kind of both ways, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I'm not defending those or blaming those who are offended by it.
Yeah.
But basically, my point is we can't. I think if someone uses it, I think all should be able to use it. It might not be the right thing, but
I think for me personally, it also kind of like us as humans, we inherently give words meaning.
Yeah.
So in the context, if you say that like, hey, I think that is a bad word. I think it means bad things. Then it's like, cool. Not everyone's going to have that same opinion about that word. So if that's how you feel, just don't use it.
Sure.
But words still have power, though. Even if I don't define like the N word or like N with a hard R as a bad word, it doesn't mean that that word is suddenly now like not a bad word.
But that doesn't mean that everyone correlates it to a bad word, though.
We collectively agree what like words mean generally, and words and definitions will change and adapt and stuff, but we collectively agree in time periods how words are defined and like what like if they're bad words, good words and stuff. So just because a word like is subject to change doesn't mean that we can't like give a hard definition as to how the broad population understands a word's definition.
Yeah, I
think population is also a vague term, right? Like the definition of a word of the broad population in one region of the world is not really. You can't like just like put that on another region of the world, right?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you're gonna have different things culturally, right? For sure.
I mean, obviously, if I go to America, right, and I say this once accidentally, or like not accidentally, but because I don't know better, and then people tell me, please don't use this word, it's kind of offensive, then if I don't stop with that, then I'm an idiot, right?
Yeah, cultural like shaming methods and stuff I think are actually really good. If there's behavior that we see in society that we don't agree with, that we may find harmful, then I think telling people, hey, bad word, don't use that kind of thing is, I don't think that's necessarily too bad.
Isn't the main problem in this whole discussion that people always want to jump to conclusions and shame other people for something that they think it's bad? Because this whole problem is solved by like a few sentences, right? If I don't assume that you are that you want to insult someone with everything you say, right? Like every time you slip with something that you don't know, or like even if you slip and you don't like recognize it,
Yeah.
Right? Like if I don't assume bad intentions of this every time, then like I can just tell you I don't like that, or like this is not appropriate, and then you say, oh well, sorry, like I didn't mean it that way, and then the problem's solved, right?
Okay, so what you're saying is you prefer like an educational approach to like problematic things rather than like a cultural shaming approach, essentially.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Okay, I can agree with that.
prefer, like I feel like prefer is like a weird word, because like I think if you're not doing that, then this is kind of insane.
Yeah, I use the word prefer because I think that as much as it might, like, you guys might not like agree with the use of like shaming tactics and stuff, or like cultural shaming, I don't think you can disagree with the notion that like shaming can be used like to have like positive outcomes, or to shape people in directions that we want them to be like shaped in, to better fit in society and be like a, I don't know,
Yeah,
like
but it's only better if the people you're like targeting are stupid.
That's fair.
That's fair.
I find like, so you guys are like familiar with the idea that every individual has like a different way of learning. Like some people might learn visually, some people might learn with like a teacher or whatever, some people might be better independently, so on and such forth. I find that like shaming could be similar to that, in that like some people might learn better by being shamed. So I think it's still a useful utility. But I do think that I would agree that I think like an educational approach tried first should probably be done, and then if that doesn't work, then maybe shaming.
Yeah.
I think the problem with public shaming is really eventually it will backlash.
Yeah.
It has
In
negative
some-
consequences, yeah.
It can create
Yeah.
conflicts, right? Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, for example, if I get shamed for using a word I used my whole life and I got socialized in that way, then maybe it makes me even like harder on my point to use that word. If I
Yeah,
get shamed for it,
what's
right?
that called? The backfire effect, I believe, is what that's called. When people like dig themselves into their position when you're trying to like oppose them or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's why I like a more friendly approach is more constructive. So
Okay, I feel it.
that's a good conversation.
True.
Back on track.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
How many questions have you answered? Like,
Not many.
no.
We could try and fly by this quicker if you guys want. Doesn't really matter to me.
No. I'm totally fine with the pace, the current pace.
Yeah, I'm cool with anything.
Okay, the freer the market, the freer the people. I mean, it's my point of this is that, of course, if the market's really free, then the people is really free. But then the aspect of, do you want total freedom? I mean,
No, I think
if we
like, this is a very short-viewed opinion of this sentence.
yeah, for sure. But like, if everybody's totally free, like no legislation of all, there's basically chaos.
It depends.
I mean,
cultural values
you
can also dictate
you're-
how people like behave and stuff. So like what we were saying before about shaming and stuff. If there's an idea that like murder is bad and stuff like that, and this is incentivized enough through cultural like education and stuff, it's very possible that you could not have a law that says don't murder people, and that you would have like a very low rate of people being murdered.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, if we got total freedom, you would be free to run out in the middle of the road and get hit by a car. You're totally free to do it. Of course, you're not gonna do it. And I mean, the line is here really freedom versus security. You can't have security without freedom, and you can't have freedom without security.
Yeah, I agree with
that.
Just a little heads up. My power is flickering.
Mine is also flickering. Mine literally just flickered too, so we're probably both getting fucked by the storm.
We have a very massive snowstorm happening right now.
Oh really?
Yeah, like it was like just a really windy day today. It was like kind of like cloudy, and then like over the course of like an hour, it turned into like a full blown blizzard.
I'm on my third restart of my stream right now, so we might just be popping in and out. It is what it is, my dude.
Well, what's the term for that in English? We have this I country, industrial industrialized country, and we have the developing countries. That's right.
True.
Well, basically, my opinion is like, for sure, the freer the people, the freer the market, the freer people. But maybe we don't want total freedom, because with total freedom, we don't have.
I'm not sure if I fully understand the question. Like, it seems like a pretty like basic, straightforward question, but it's like, okay, if your market is free, what is that going to entail, right? Like,
no regulations by the government.
Yeah, no regulations by the government. Probably some form of healthy competition. If we assume that people aren't going to be corrupt and do bad things, then like we won't need the regulations.
The free,
right?
I would rephrase this question to be: the freer the market, the more potential freedom for the people. Like it raises the ceiling essentially, but it doesn't necessarily like beguest positive like freer outcomes for the people by itself necessarily.
No, but
Yeah.
I mean, like if you have a free market, right?
Yep.
Then you have monopoles, right? You have no regulations, right? Like, so,
it's
for example,
possible.
if I want a job, right, and I'm your boss,
yeah,
then I'm gonna tell you, well, if you don't find a job, then you have to work for $1 for me. I mean, if you don't want to, then you can die on the street. But
I think
yeah. That's like a very like.
If you have no regulations with the human nature in charge, then I'm not sure how free the majority of people are. I mean, of course, if you're a wealthy person and it's your company, you're probably pretty free, but
it depends on the lens in which you're viewing this free market through, though, right? If you're viewing the free market through the lens of capitalism, where money is still the ultimate goal, then of course corporations' interest is to pay you as little as possible, and with no regulations, they can fuck everybody else. You'll have wage slave. But through the lens of the ideology that I subscribe to, being the resource-based economy, a free market is necessary. Removal of all regulations is actually like a part of that.
Yeah, but once we get to that, I think like most of the problems we have are solved.
That's true. Yeah. I guess kind of my point is that like that's why I said it removes the ceiling essentially and gives more potential for freedom. But it does depend on the like the lens in which you're viewing this question through, for sure.
Yeah, I think you could answer both strongly disagree and strongly agree in this one.
I think this is very much like assuming that capitalism is the system in charge.
That's true. Yeah, we could just go off of like modern pretenses, which would probably be the lens we should view all of these through.
Yeah, I guess if we assume, then I would disagree. Like if we're assuming that capitalism is like the one in charge, then I would disagree with this.
Mm-hmm.
I find it really hard to focus on one perspective and answer.
I know, right? I feel you.
I
hate it.
Yeah.
Because I agree with this principally, right? But if we were to put this in practice in like today, without changing anything else, we would get fucked.
Yeah, for sure.
It's so frustrating.
Yeah, it's really frustrating actually. But I guess I'll go disagree, even though you can see it from both perspectives. It's a sad reflection on our society that something as basic as drinking water is now a bottle-branded consumer product.
Strongly agree.
Yeah, capitalism bad.
But I mean, to be fair, like I don't know how it is for you guys, but I can drink my tap water, and I think in Sweden too, right? Like
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we have access to essentially free water.
It's free, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our water's dirt cheap here, like from the rivers and stuff that we have flowing through, which would be our tap water. Yeah. Very cheap.
Yeah. I don't know,
but
for sure.
Not everyone is afforded that luxury.
Exactly.
I'd like to give a different perspective.
If you look on a global scale, then it's definitely like a strongly agree, I guess.
I'd like to give a slightly different perspective on this too. That's pretty relevant to Canada, especially us in Alberta and BC, which is right beside us. We are home to the Rocky Mountains. We have nice glaciers, nice parks. Nestle has essentially like a strong fist contract with the government to like use as much water from these natural parks as they want, from certain areas of the parks anyways that they have like made these contracts on, and they can just siphon out as much as they want, and there's like essentially like no repercussions if they fuck the environment there. Nestle is of course using this water for their like drinks and stuff, right? And of course some of that would end up in like bottled drinking water. So I would say that's why I would say this is a sad reflection of society, because things like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure, it's a sad reflection, but I mean, I think it's necessary, necessary in today's society. I mean, if we go back 200 years, no one was buying tap water, and for sure, people were dying of diseases in contaminated water.
Yeah, access to fresh water is vital.
I don't think that's what the question is asking. I'm thinking like the question is asking, by today's standards of society, it's a sad reflection that basic drinking water is now bottled and branded to consumers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is like the other question. Like, depends on you look at it.
You know what I like and what I think is really interesting, that we all kind of agree on every concept, but we just understand the questions differently. And
true.
Even though, like, depending on how we understand the question, we still agree, right? Like most of the time, at least.
Yeah,
I think so.
But I think that's like a pretty standard.
Thing,
yeah, I mean, across all political views, everybody's striving for the same end goal, basically. So
except fascists, fuck them.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't instantly assume that everyone is an idiot, then maybe you can talk to him and understand why he thinks that way, and maybe you understand why he thinks that way, and if you understand it, you can definitely see his viewpoint.
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, like, for sure there are other examples that one race or whatever that doesn't want everyone good, but I think most people want that. Just boils down to, okay, let's everybody have a good time.
True.
Yeah.
So I think it's hard to disagree on that.
Yeah, right. When you're not arguing about like who's left, right, communist or like socialist or capitalist or whatsoever, like if you talk about actual points, it's actually kind of hard to disagree, right? So,
true.
Yeah, true.
Common tactic used by the right to like essentially what's the word, discredit a lot of like environmental policies and stuff, like positive progressive ideas, is they won't engage with the idea itself that you're talking about. They'll just misrepresent your position essentially, and then just avoid
they say
it.
You're a lefty, and since you're a lefty, if I let you do whatever you want, we have communism.
Exactly. They'll use communism as like a proxy for a bad word essentially. Yeah.
I get it.
It's a good meme.
All right. Next question.
Yeah, sure.
Oh wait, what do we agree on this one? Yeah, cool.
I strongly agreed on this one.
I strongly agree as well.
Same.
Okay, land shouldn't be a commodity to be bought and sold.
I agree.
I think I agree with this.
Strongly agree.
Yeah.
I think I disagree actually.
Okay, why?
I don't strongly agree. I just semi-agree, and I'll let Bilk go first.
I mean, what's the other option? I'm assigned to one place.
Collective ownership of all land.
Collective ownership of all land, like maybe I would say like the resources should be bought and sold, not the land itself.
Yeah.
So you're basically renting the land if you need the land to get the resources, or like you need the land for like agriculture or whatever.
You just respect the land, and like it's essentially like. Do you guys know of like indigenous cultures much in Sweden?
No, not really.
Not too much. Okay, so like it's very, very vital to indigenous people to like they live off the land, like all humans, right? But there's like a deeper connection that's usually attributed to indigenous people to the land and stuff. Sustainability is a huge thing with this too, right? So you when like for example like quick little story.
Like you
When
don't
you're
take
hunting
more than what
and you
need.
see like an injured animal in the pack of deer or whatever, and then you see like the strong male deer leading in the pregnant female deer, you take off the weakest of the bunch essentially to allow the population to continue to sustain and stuff. So it's kind of like that kind of comes back to like the whole like land thing where it's like collective ownership is essentially like respect for the land because others are going to come after you that are going to need to use the land. So on and
I
such
think
forth.
I think we have a different scope on it. I think we have the same opinion. I think about like the private personal land. Then I think
Not
it
like
should
the land
be,
that you would build your house on.
yeah, exactly.
Sure.
But
you might,
then I think it should be bought and sold. But like
Okay.
private companies, then that's another topic I think should be more regulated. Or
So you would say maybe
there's a way
no
out.
private ownership by companies, but maybe private ownership by individuals.
I think there's an easy way out.
Somewhat like that.
I think there's an easy way out. If you just say like the land the house is built on is tied to the property, then I mean, obviously you can't say like this is my house, but the land below it is not mine. Like this is stupid, right? Like this is unrealistic.
Right.
But I think if you tie the land your house is built on to the house, then every other land shouldn't be private, right?
Yeah. I think too. I don't really see a functional difference between a person privately owning and like a company privately owning a land, because at what point in time do we then we have to regulate how much land an individual can own then, right? Because like otherwise that individual can just keep accumulating private property. And so this is why I just approach it with the collective idea instead, because I think that just solves that problem better than just like legislation to say you can only own X land.
Yeah, I get your point of it totally. I just really can't make up an opinion about it, really.
Okay.
But I think it should be bought and sold. Like.
Yeah, I mean that's the way we do it now, so it's easier to understand. For sure.
Yeah, for sure. But it's a truly interesting question. I mean, what is the end goal here? If we continue, maybe it will become like 1% own 99%. So
I mean, the thing is always like, what concept thought to the extreme is less risk, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So if you look at it from that way, then you definitely don't want privately owned land, right? But obviously, if the people are respectful to the land, it doesn't matter. So, I don't know. It's like kind of a thing where if the people are okay and the people are responsible for whatever they have, then it doesn't really matter anymore. Right?
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of democracy, so collective ownership
with
means democracy.
It's the same thing with social systems in general, right? It doesn't matter what social system you have. If the people that are inside the social system and if they are morally like perfect, then it doesn't matter what system you have.
True.
I'm just gonna boil it down to a simpler example, and let's just try it. Let's try it from there. Let's expect we have 10 plots in one country, and everyone's filled. 5 of them are apartments, and 5 of them are basically houses.
Yeah.
If I own an apartment and want to move to a house, there is no house left. Then that collective ownership would fail at some point, and then I think me paying a price for that land for the house is somewhat a solution for it. Might be out on slippery ice here, but what do you guys say?
I'm trying to understand like what exactly you mean by that. I think
I mean, like let's say it's 10 plots, 10 people or 10 families basically.
Yeah.
And they don't agree where they want to live. Everybody want to have the largest plot of them. then
Oh,
it's
okay.
easier with a capitalistic society with or not capitalistic society, but the money buy and sell fixes that.
I think that the problem here in this example, unless I'm misunderstanding it, wouldn't be solved by either of these things. You could have like if people just like don't want to move or whatever and stuff, then I don't think that like having the ability to like privately buy and sell property would solve this problem either. Do you know what I'm saying? I think you could
Not
if you
really.
had that too. I don't understand how this fixes it. Do you know? Like,
No,
how does that
but
fix
like
it?
when I offer enough money to the guy in the family in the house, they will be willing to let it go, and I can move in there. It has a value instead of me uh, as a opinion about the publicly shared land. Like, hey, why should you have that? I should have it.
Right.
I might.
Well, I guess in that sort of analogy, would it not make more sense to be like, hey, why don't you just tear down your apartment building and build a house?
No, yeah, for sure.
Because like in this example, there's other apartment buildings, right? Unless
Yeah.
we're saying like the apartment buildings are full, and
Yeah,
the house
yeah,
is full.
that's
Like someone needs to give up something so that you can have a house, essentially.
It's possible you might be able to
or
trade with
vice
somebody who's in a
versa.
house, yeah, too. But
Yeah, but
Yeah.
does everybody? If everybody wants a house, I know I've taken it to the extreme, but you get the idea.
Yeah, I do want to engage with like the hypothetical like really honestly. I don't want to like
Yeah.
worm my way out of it and be like, oh, we'll just build another house then or whatever, right? Like I'm not sure how to engage with it because I just don't see how like I do understand that like in this hypothetical how like a monetary value associated with it would give you more leverage to get somebody out of a house if you wanted to move there. I don't know. I don't even know how necessary that is, I guess, at the end of the day, you know?
No, for sure not. Maybe he could just build a house right next to him, but
well, that's what I'm saying. Like instead
yeah.
of paying someone to like be like, hey, like I'm gonna give you X amount of dollars because your house has that much monetary value to me because I want to live here, just build another house. If all the land is shared anyways, then it won't matter.
Yeah, but that's the trick question with the example, given there are only 10 available houses.
Yeah, so the only way to do that would be to tear down your apartment building then, which is overly complicated and stuff. Gonna cost you a lot of money, probably more than just buying the house. I get it.
Yeah, well, it's a tricky one.
For sure.
I don't have an answer for it, but yeah, it's an interesting.
Yeah, I mean it's a good way to think about it too, for sure, and understand like the what's the word? The utility of money.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe some kind of trade would be applicable here as well. But let's say, like the guy who needs the house does need it for some reason. Like he has.
Yeah, maybe he wants to go into an apartment or whatever.
Yeah, maybe he has 5 kids and they can't barely fit there, basically.
Oh yeah.
And there's an old lady having the house, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's skip that one. Going down the rabbit hole.
True.
To take next. Oh, I'm just gonna go to the bathroom. You guys keep going, and I'll be right back.
Yeah, no worries.
Sure. So I guess I'll read it out. So it is regrettable that many personal fortunes are made by people who simply manipulate money and contribute nothing to their society.
I don't agree with the premise that this question is giving. I do think that like there's lots of people who make lots of money. Oh, maybe this is talking about banks though. I don't know, I guess.
I think
banks
it's about shareholding and stuff. People who let their money work for them.
Yeah, like things like the stock market, which don't actually really need to exist for a healthy economy, so on and such forth. Yeah. Okay.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I think I would agree under that lens.
I agree with it too. I really don't even have like a counter argument for it, like even if I wanted to, just because it's like, probably can't think of one even if I tried.
Doesn't really sound like a question, right?
I think you might have
Yeah.
to like maybe misunderstand or misinterpret the question to get it wrong. Because I was thinking initially that it was saying that like essentially like rich people just don't contribute anything, which is not true on like the large scale. Of course, we can think
Yeah.
of specific examples where there's definitely people who like move money around and stuff and gain profits off of things that like are essentially and without contributing, I guess.
I feel like regrettable is actually like a very mild word for what they do.
Yeah.
True.
Imagine.
Deplorable might be a better one.
Correct.
I mean, some people like with that kind of principle, like there are genocides that happen on this world.
Yeah,
because of this.
true.
I really agree with you, Noah. So, like, in some way, everybody that's probably doing things legally is contributing to society.
Yeah,
but
like if we're talking about CEOs and stuff, you can't tell me that every
Yeah.
CEO doesn't contribute in some way. Like they're
For sure.
probably in charge of like helping this corporation to give
For sure.
whatever resource
Someone-
they're giving or whatever, right? I don't think they're completely useless. But if you compare how much value they're bringing compared to like literally their lowest down worker, their lowest down
Exactly.
worker is probably bringing way more value, I would say.
Yeah, and me and my dad actually had this conversation not too long ago about the current stock market. That's like there's different jobs in the society. There's a policeman, there's a firefighter, there's a garbage truck driver, and there's a stock broker, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you put a value on this on what it contributes to society, I think the stock worker is gonna fall short here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
the
you have to
stock
think
broker
about
brings
if like
actually
society
nothing
can
to the
exist
table.
without that job essentially and function.
Yeah, basically. But in our society, those are also needed for driving new companies, new tech development. So it's not an easy one, but I think I have more appreciation for the value of an ambulance worker or something. That's,
Yeah.
So I would agree, but not strongly agree.
The thing is, the reason it's needed is a flaw in itself already, right? Because the thing is, why is it needed? It's needed because the money is concentrated on those people, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
money is not inside the actual economy.
Mhm.
It's frozen. So we have to basically beg those people to invest in our ideas.
Yeah, exactly. We have lots of
I'm-
great scientific ideas that don't get invested in just because they won't make as much money.
Yeah, but that's what I'm quite fond of, and really like this small. I'm a stock trader. Like I like the idea that I earn my money. I believe in some capital way or form that I invest in a company that I think is gonna make me money and do the world good. But the
Sure,
problem,
But
the
you're
problem,
not a multimillionaire, right?
no. But the problem is when we have this like the robots basically that buy and sell within a given time period of less than a second, making staking like 1 million. It's the curve is going up and they're selling a half second later, and making a profit of like a 0.5%, which accumulates to several $1 million.
Yeah, when you're talking
That's-
in large scales of things, they
Yeah.
make massive amounts of money off of like fractional changes in the stock market.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
And that's not the idea I really want to see. It's like I love the idea of like you stake your capital and you bring it as a long time investment.
You should look into like co-ops, like in general. Usually this is like a like you can localize this instead of having it be like a grand scale thing, and then you would remove all of the negative problems that are associated with the stock market. You could essentially engage in investing in things that way, but then you remove all of the other negative things that you end up contributing to by using like stock markets and stuff.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, I get the flaws.
Yeah.
And I that kind of drives me insane, like the recent Tesla stock.
Yeah. Literally made him the
I'm-
most wealthy person in the world. It's fucking crazy,
Yeah.
dude.
I'm like, and you see how much they turn over. The company doesn't make that much.
Yeah.
I'm just getting frustrated, really.
Yeah, I feel you.
One shot
I'm
thing,
sure-
like the army, like you posted the stream in the chat, right? Like I don't have a problem with it. I don't think it's a problem, but I think that this might attract people to your stream that don't really belong there. So you want me to delete it because
Not at all. Not at all.
no,
I want all people to like. I don't care what your opinions are, what your views are
my
on things.
friend, there are people in this Discord that I don't know.
Oh,
Oh.
don't take the vaccine. Was that?
Dude, like not done, like
Or,
Dude, I don't care, honestly. Like, if you have an opinion that differs from mine, I'll hear it out as long as you're
I don't think like the problem is that there are people that their opinions are not really like not worth calling them opinion. That's
Oh.
I mean,
yeah,
like, at the end of the day,
pretty
And,
retarded
like-
people in here.
yeah, that's fine. At the end of the day, I think that, you know, you are entitled to have the opinions that you have. Like, I think that's like a right that you are allowed to do.
Okay.
Doesn't matter if they align with mine or not, just as long as you give me the same respect that I give you.
I
with
think there
yours.
lies the problem. No.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
really.
if you're not gonna want to give me respect, I mean, that's fine. Just as long
No,
as
this is not what I'm saying, right? Like I'm just saying like the people that in this Discord, like I don't care. We can leave it there.
Oh.
I'm just like warning you, you know.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, no, it doesn't. I look at it from a sense of like a small streamer. Where you're like, hey, you want to come into my stream and talk shit? It's like, go for it.
Okay.
Thanks for making my view count go up.
Oh, okay, never mind.
I don't
True.
fucking care.
I had like some popularity in the early days of like my YouTube career with like music, where I was like in a band in high school and we made a YouTube page and we covered songs and stuff, and we got like I think up to 12,000 subscribers, which is quite good. That's like double the size of my small town I lived in. Of course, it's nothing in the grand scheme of things, right? But it was some amount of popularity, and if there's anything I've learned from it, it's that like people who hate you make you fucking famous. It's wild.
Correct.
Hatred is good for online clout.
Someone
So yeah,
posted-
it's like, I have no issues with it.
No, just side note, someone said do the isidewith.com instead of this. It's way better political test. But fuck that. I'm not starting over.
I feel it. Another
Okay.
time.
Yeah. Well, but regarding open discussions, and I think that really that's the main issue in today's society, where basically just look at the conversation between Hillary and Trump. I mean, come on, guys. Is that what
American politics are just fucking cringe in general, my dude.
Yeah.
That's true.
The thing is,
mean,
it's not just American politics, though, is the problem.
It leeches into
People
everything
don't want
else.
to have it leeches in everything, but people don't want to have like civilized open discussions anymore, because I think what happens is the moment that you have a difference of opinion than someone else, for whatever reason, society has been like, the moment you have a difference of opinion, that person is wrong, or they're trying to attack you in some way.
Yeah.
And then so you immediately need to defend yourself and kind of like, you know, be the bigger person by being like, well, no, my opinion is right because fuck you, that's why.
exactly. Yeah, but I really think that's one of the
Hacker.
biggest
What's
problems.
this shit playing in the
society.
background?
Oh my god.
What happened there?
Oh, someone joined. We're talking politics here, Hanger. You want to join in?
I can't even hear you speak over the music. That's how loud it is.
Let me know.
You're super loud, dude. No, we're we're making this quiz like about where on the political spectrum someone belongs.
Hmm.
Talking about the
Interesting.
different questions.
I am directly in the center.
Very good. Bullseye, baby.
Well,
Protectionism is sometimes necessary. Yes, it is, buddy. Strongly agree.
what does it mean though? Protectionism is something that's necessary in trade.
Like tariffs and stuff. you think, right?
Well, no, tariffs is different, but it's part of it. So it's when you place certain things to disallow international trade of something to maintain the advantage you have over a particular good or something.
It's, for example, if you produce milk locally, but China can produce milk much cheaper because of the way their like structure works and the way they can pay people, you know. And then if you import those into your own country, you can tax them so that your product can compete with their product.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah, I strongly agree.
the exact definition is the
Yeah.
theory or practice of shielding a country's domestic industries from foreign competition by taxing imports.
Yeah, tariffs. Okay, so I was right. Boom,
Yeah.
got him.
Yeah, it's well, not exactly tariffs, but
Wait.
like
How is it different from a tariff? It's not.
A tariff is a tax or duty to be paid on a particular class of imports or exports. It doesn't necessarily, like, just because there's a tariff on something doesn't mean that it's like protecting the
Oh yeah, I
the
got
country's
what you mean.
like domestic industries.
Even though
Okay,
it's
I don't want to like
quite
argue over
similar.
definitions of words, but it's literally just that's literally what it is.
I mean, it's more of a philosophy for like how you're supposed to govern the country,
Yeah,
as opposed to direct implementation of a thing.
like
Yes.
it's the theory of it, whereas like a tariff is like probably a real world application.
Okay, yes. Yeah,
Oh,
I agree.
okay, I got
That
it.
isn't, but also like I don't know, protection like yeah. I'm just gonna leave it at that. I don't want to try and dig any deeper into this.
Okay, is there
Yeah,
is there an example of something other than protectionism that anybody wants to defend here as a way that we can apply protectionism?
Sure. Like me and my dad recently, or not recently, a few years ago, went to Norway, and we're stocking cheese when we go there.
Very good.
Before we go there, because milk products in general are shit expensive. That's because their government puts on some kind of tariff, or they pay. It's a lot more expensive to create a better income for the Norwegian farmers.
Yeah,
So we pay. You get the idea.
that's what I mean though. That's still tariffing. They tariff the imports so that the local economy can actually compete, and then they don't like lose their local jobs or whatever. I get it.
Correct.
Yeah, it's not actually really that, but yeah, kind of.
Correct. Basically correct. Yeah.
Milk products are more expensive than elsewhere because there's an extra fee on it that goes to the farmers,
Right.
basically.
I guess you could have either
Um,
tariffs or you could just straight restrict things from coming in. I think in Canada we didn't allow any like Canadian or American dairy products to like come through our borders for a
Yeah.
long time. And that only changed
Yeah.
recently when Trump like bullied the fuck out of the liberals here and pretty much like forced them to. So
And I think that's probably like a big difference between like protectionism and like a tariff. Like a tariff is just like a tax on top of that, where like protectionism you can just straight literally block things from coming in.
well, both are
Yeah.
versions of protectionism. I think that's what I'm
Both,
saying.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I guess to like make it a bit more tangible, an argument against protectionism would be that it drives prices up, so it's going to be long term less affordable for
No.
everyone.
But isn't it the exact opposite?
Well, no. So it's like
No.
you protect the local economy, but you're like
Yeah.
on a global scale, your welfare loss will be higher, right?
It depends.
Yes.
It depends. Like, I mean, if other countries have have like
No.
a better way to produce things, like without only that, then you're just destroying your own economy
No,
at
no,
some
okay.
point.
No,
No,
but you
listen,
keep your jobs inside the country. Or, I mean,
How?
that
You're gonna lose those jobs because if
Yeah,
there's no production anymore, then
No, but paper. Think about it this way, right? You drive prices up of say Chinese products, right? And then the global consumer base is going to be forced to also pay slightly inflated prices, especially if you are working within like a trade zone, right? So like the
but you
EU.
don't drive prices up globally.
No, but it could be within an actual entire region. So if the EU decides,
Yeah, sure.
I'm going to drive prices up for everyone, then the whole of the EU has to pay that driven up price.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And then that could cause actual inflation across the world. It's not going to just have the zone specific inflation. It's going to actually cause like world inflation, depending. But yeah,
Why does it cause world inflation?
Well, essentially because like once the country is like, oh, like for example, let's say we impose a higher tariff on like the EU kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
If the EU kind of gives into that and pays that, then the world is going to be like, hey, we're just going to be raising our prices across the board now. And if you don't want to pay it, then they're essentially going to say, well, you don't have access to these goods anymore.
Depends on how like available those goods are from other areas. It also depends on the economy of which tariffs are happening in. If the U.S. dollar is like going to be the one that's mainly like if the U.S. is involved in any way, shape, or form, it's probably going to be way easier to see like the whole world like shift, because the U.S. dollar is so powerful.
Yeah.
I mean,
beyond that, protectionism also weakens innovation. So you'll find a drop in quality.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
It's actually the opposite. Sometimes. I mean, you can make the argument the other way around as well. Like, if I import, like, I don't know, cheap milk from China, that has less quality for whatever reason.
Yeah, you could have high quality I find like local people tend to have like, it depends I guess on what you're talking about, right? On what field, right? If you're talking about like maybe like manufacturing and stuff, then maybe restricting like imports from China and stuff might lower your quality because they're just better at it.
We can all agree that generally higher quality made stuff is a higher price. Like we can generally agree on that.
Well, it doesn't always mean
Yeah.
that higher price is dictated by supply and demand, and if you're localizing your supply instead of and like by restricting external supply, but your local supply is expensive to like, so for example, Canadian oil, very, very expensive to get out of the ground. If we were to impose restrictions or tariffs on oil from the rest of the world, then we would end up with a lower quality, more expensive product because our product is lower quality from the ground and it's more expensive to take out of the ground. Does that make sense?
No, it does. But I'm also saying, like, generally, you pay more for higher quality items.
I would say usually,
I don't think always.
but not generally.
You can just see it happen.
I mean, I'm kind of fond of the competition idea, like that everyone is striving for the top to be the best. And
I think at this point we're just arguing apples to oranges, or like apples to apples, essentially.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. I think it's important to protect the local market.
Yeah, I strongly agree.
I can see the value in it. Yeah, I think that sometimes necessary. I would totally agree with this sentence as the way it's structured, for sure.
I mean, beyond this, I mean, you can take like an example of it. Like in America, they promote American cheese, which is far inferior to like French cheese. So much so that
True.
French and Italian cheeses are highly inflated in price, and also some are completely outright banned.
Yeah.
So as to not affect the domestic demand of American cheese. And that reduces innovation, that reduces international trade, increases tariffs, and drives up inflation and prices across the board for lactose products. So, you know, that's one example for protectionists thing.
Yeah, for it being negative, essentially.
Yeah.
That's really interesting, really.
But I think the positives still outweighs the negatives.
I think case
Yeah.
by case basis, I would have to determine it on.
Yeah, true. I might change my mind to agree from strongly agree, but let's just stay there. Be kind of not tolerant, or what do you say? Narrow-minded.
Yeah.
Okay. The only social responsibility of a company should be to deliver a profit to its shareholders. No,
Fuck no.
Strongly agree, buddy.
Oh. Oh boy.
I love that it says social responsibility.
Social. Strongly agree.
So it's a social responsibility specifically because those shareholders have invested money into it, and so it's like the best interest of those people who like, have a direct investment in that company essentially. Whereas like another social responsibility could be to the environment, which is where I would start to get into my strongly disagree arguments.
I also strongly disagree on this.
I can't abandon the capitalistic view totally.
Well, I'm definitely viewing this through a lens of capitalism, and this is like one of my strongest critiques of it, so that's why I have to strongly disagree.
But I think I view the question slightly differently, though.
How so?
Okay, so the only social, you can view it as like social responsibility as the concept, right? But if you're talking about what the company should deliver, it's merely a profit to its shareholders. The responsibility lies on the owners, not the company.
No, I don't.
The owner makes like actions in interest of the company, though, too, right? So I don't know if there's actually a functional difference between those two things.
Like, depending on what the actions are.
Like the only social responsibility, that's just wrong. I don't know. If you take
It
the
should
word
also-
only into account, maybe the main, which I also wouldn't agree with, but definitely one of those is to deliver profit to the shareholder, right?
Yeah,
So
imagine a
it's not
world
the
where
first
the
and
only
definitely
responsibility
not
of a
the
company was a profit to its shareholders. It'd be a fucking hellscape. Like resources would be extracted like infinitely. Everything would just like life would become like very unmanageable. It would be destabilized very quickly.
This is something you could do when you could move to Mars once you destroyed the Earth,
But
true. The companies think in the short term, right? That's the reason why this is so problematic. Like just because like they might deplete their resources and not have anything to sell, like they don't give a fuck. Like they made their money along the way. Like they're on to their next thing, you know? Like
kind of boomer mentality, right?
I still disagree, but if you see it as in another perspective, if the company has if the consumers take power and choose what they want to buy, essentially more narrowly, the companies will be forced to take like the social responsibility of the environment to keep their profit to its shareholders.
yeah, it just depends on how long term and short term it is, right?
For sure.
Like if there's only enough resources for them to last at this rate like another year, they might be like, oh fuck, we need more than a year, right? But if the short term gains is like over something like 10 years or whatever, 10 years is lots of time, right?
Yeah. True.
I would strongly disagree with this.
I think we're quite on the same page here.
The rich are too highly taxed. Strongly disagree.
Depends on where you live.
I guess
Wait,
I strongly disagree with that one here, just because, like, in America, the rich aren't taxed very heavily, I would say.
Yeah.
Hang on. Where do you have to live where the rich are too highly taxed?
Too highly taxed. Well, I mean, like you said, America is the tax that they put on the rich for America, the millionaires tax. That's insane.
What?
You might as well not be a millionaire, kinda.
Why?
But you don't need $1 million. Like, why do you need $1 million? Why do you need to be a millionaire?
Well, I mean, you don't need to be, but if you aspire to be one and then you get taxed for it, like in an absurd amount, then I don't know.
if that tax money
Yeah.
goes towards like infrastructure to the country, goes towards helping people who get programs.
Well, they
I
don't
don't see
care
anything
about
wrong
that. It's a good point.
Yeah,
but
they don't care
about
about that.
Uh,
Yeah.
meal.
Yeah, but,
I'm
but
just
this
gonna
is the
say-
reason why. This is the reason why they are not too highly taxed, right? Because they don't care about that. So
I'm
they
just
should
gonna.
be highly taxed.
Well, okay,
Let's see
you
here.
can view it from different from
What's a
different
high
perspectives.
salary in the US?
200 and like 300,000, I think, for a CEO generally.
In 300,000 in 1 year.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Unless you're Jeff Bezos, in which case you just own a fucking company.
that.
True.
Okay, let's see here. If you make basically you make 250,000 Swedish crowns if you make 300,000. Let's see here. Let's see. Let's see you pay 55% right off the bat
In Sweden?
That's half your money.
in Sweden. Yeah, in Sweden.
In Germany
Cool.
too.
So 55% of how much money?
Of 250,000, so 125,000.
Would you
No.
consider that number to be like a modest and really like clearly higher standard of living compared to like a what's the word, just an average normie, I guess, or whatever?
Yeah, for sure. I mean that's a lot of money, and but just
I don't see the harm
I think
though.
I mean, to be honest,
No, but-
I actually would
okay.
go further. Like, I would actually say, like, if we have a minimum wage, why don't we have a maximum wage?
I think 55% is also you don't have to make there's a roof, so if you make, let's say, 70k,
Yeah,
uh,
and it's the same.
yeah, so if you make 70k, you earn 44,000, and that is basically above average.
Well, that's the
You
same in
you
Germany.
keep you net 44 out of the 70?
You yeah.
Okay, and this is Sweden, right?
Yep.
So in Sweden, in broader context, you guys are afforded what's the word? Your housing market is fairly subsidized, right? So you're essentially like afforded like a kind of a right to a house, essentially. And then you have like am I correct in saying that, right?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Like
I
so
think that-
subsidized housing, I believe, means that like the government like essentially like gives you some
yeah,
amount of
I-
money back towards getting a house and stuff.
Oh, not houses in general.
Just
I
general
mean,
living,
I
right?
think
I guess. Yeah. Sorry.
No, I think you can have it if you're studying, if you're or if you're in some way in need of it. But everyone, if you make 70k, you can't apply for it.
Okay.
Yeah, so it says right here, Sweden does not have like a social housing system in the strictest sense of the term, defined as a type of subsidized housing aimed at low-income households.
Yeah.
And Swedish municipalities must, under Swedish law, provide housing to all their inhabitants regardless of their income.
Yeah, I think that's what I was kind of talking about.
I think that's what Novus was trying to say. That's like,
Essentially, like the
no
reason why
matter
you're getting
what
taxed so
your
high is
income
because like it'll get reinvested into you, essentially. Like the
government reinvested or the government reinvested on your behalf as like everyone in the country kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Essentially, the money's not just robbed out of your pocket. Like like you do like gain value
Yeah,
from it.
yeah, for sure. You
Which
get
is
back
important to
in the-
understand, because if we just look at this and we're like, oh
Yeah.
my fuck, 44 out of 70, like oh my, like a lot of people will take that and just run buck wild with it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So also like given the Swedish terms, I don't know. I think it's quite good where it is, or like I don't think it's need to be modified. But
Yeah.
like in US terms, that yeah, sure. I disagree with the rich are to have highly taxed. The problem is really when you go above 70k, because
No.
when you
Yeah.
go we go like 1 mil, that's 12. That's basically $1 million.
I mean, the main problem about that is if you talk about inheritance, right? If you talk
Yeah.
about inheritance and if you talk about people who have like
But-
absurd amounts of money.
Yeah, but the
That's fair.
thing is, like, nobody has a salary of $1 million in Sweden, really. You get it. You take it out in some other way.
Mhm.
Basically, you take it in shares, share
Yeah.
profit, or so it's not.
But I mean,
Yeah.
for me, the point is right. You're gonna have stuff put into your social security. You're gonna have stuff put into your pension. You get 55% taken out on top of that, right?
Let's
And
see.
then
Yeah.
like
no, isn't that part
it's
of
still
it?
more than
Isn't
enough.
No.
pension and
Let's
stuff
do
is
it.
part of that, isn't it?
Maybe I can.
'Cause that's the summary.
Translate this.
Wait.
I mean,
so
this is normal taxation. Like you
So-
still have to pay for like what is it
let's go
called?
with 7K again.
Healthcare and blah blah blah.
I think this would be only stuff you pay to the government, but not your pension, for example.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, this is not. I don't think the pension is included in this one.
Oh, is pension
Yeah.
okay? So in Canada, pension's taken off of our paycheck specifically. Do you guys? Is that it doesn't work that way then?
No, no.
Or-
It's like this. The employer puts aside above the 70K,
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
and they pay like an employment fee for. So if you get 70K, the employer pays 100, and if you get 70K, you end up having 44% of that, or 45%
Yeah.
of that.
Okay, yeah,
So-
we have something similar.
so-
We throw like $50 into ours, and the government matches it.
Oh yeah. So basically, it gets kind of hard to argue that we should have a higher tax in Sweden. I don't agree with that.
Sure, from
mean-
a Sweden lens, yeah, that's fair because you guys already have
Yep.
like a fairly like good, robust tax system.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I'm not too good at knowing like how much can we stop, how much can we tax people until how long can we tax something that moves, and should we do it till it slows down or should we do it till it stops? Do you get that was a bad example, but
Okay,
you get
yeah, what you're saying is that like
how far can you tax it? You
yeah,
can't
there's going to
tax
be
it
there's going to be a threshold that once you cross that, now it's no longer like even really viable for like businesses to maybe survive because you're like
Exactly.
overly taxing. Sure, I know that there's a number. I don't know what that number is, but for
till-
sure.
later.
But the problem with that is not that the 55%, right? Like the problem is that if you go higher than 70,000, that it doesn't increase.
You
Or that
guys
is like
keep on
that.
talking. I'm
What-
just gonna
what you-
Google something.
You're talking about like
what you mean,
proportional increases?
Exactly. What I mean is, like, if you would increase it higher on like people who earn like 200,000 a year, then you can probably decrease it for those who like have 70,000 a year, right?
Yeah, I agree. You could balance it much better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, like, if I'm thinking about the rich, right? Like, I'm not thinking about the upper middle class, right? Which
Yeah.
I think is 70,000 a year is upper middle class, right? It's not the
Yep.
rich. That's what I mean.
You know,
Like,
I mean,
This
it's
is what
rich
I
enough
see.
to send your kid to a good school, for what it's
What?
worth.
what do you mean?
It's rich enough to send your kid to a good school.
Yeah, but I mean, like in Sweden, you don't need to pay for school, right?
Yeah, it's covered from your taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is why this gets
yeah, I mean,
complex because
that's
I'm
why-
talking from Canada, you guys are talking from Sweden. Where are you from, Hanger?
Malaysia.
Malaysia. Oh, and you're from Germany, right? 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So we've got like 4 different locations geographically. Yeah.
Ah, that's
even
cool.
though to be fair, like my situation is fairly the same as to Sweden.
Okay.
But I mean, this is why I say it depends on where you live, whether or not the rich are too highly taxed, because living situations.
Of course, yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So basically, if the employer in Sweden, if you get 70K, the employer pays somewhat around 92,000,
Damn.
and you get 70 and you get to keep 44.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not saying, but the problem is what once you get above like so let's say 10 mil, that's when it becomes interesting.
Mhm.
I mean, I think the biggest problem in taxation is like inheritance, right?
You're talking about like
Like-
wealth inheritance from like property
Yeah.
and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
everything in general.
Okay.
Like the way money like moves, like the large amounts of money from one person to another is always inheritance.
Yeah,
Or
I
most
mean,
of the
yeah.
time inheritance.
It largely determines
Yep.
like your socioeconomic standings as an individual, just whether or not like where your parents were at and stuff, what you
Yeah.
what opportunities you're even given, even without that inheritance of like property and stuff, just the general opportunities that you're presented with from your parents knowing certain people and
Of
everything.
course, yeah.
It's crazy.
True.
I mean, you can make the argument that there are always some people who go like from zero to hero, right? But this is a very
It's
specific
an anomaly.
case. Yeah, exactly.
Well, cool. Okay, I guess we'll.
We can continue.
We have different
we did-
opinions, so clearly we just have to answer it like individualistically. In
I
Canada, they
think
are
that-
not taxed high enough, nowhere near.
But
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
if you view it globally, then you can definitely strongly agree, like globally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yep.
I would
I
say
guess-
agree for me.
Yeah.
I'm sitting
I-
on agree.
Yeah, I'm
Central
gonna do it.
Europe, Central
guess-
Europe is not a big part of the world, right?
I'm gonna guess this political compass doesn't mean Sweden. So
That's the
I'm
issue,
gonna go.
right? Yeah. How do they know?
So I'm gonna go agree.
Yeah, but this is what I meant, right? Like when I talked to you about it, like I think this is mainly based about mainly based about the NA situation. Like I feel like most of those questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, somewhat or similar to. Okay.
I
So-
totally
This,
agree.
this test said I'm a left-wing libertarian.
Oh really?
Far. Yeah.
A libertarian socialist, eh? Based.
Yeah.
Guys, we're on page 2. 2 of
Yeah.
6.
We gotta speed the ball.
Oh, we're soon
got-
on.
Okay. This kind.
So those
ability to
ability
pay,
Uh,
access to higher standard.
That's dependent on the private institution. So yeah.
No, I strongly
No, I
disagree
didn't
with
agree
it.
with that. I think everyone should have
I feel
access
like
to the
that's
same
insane.
standard of medical care.
Yeah, I agree.
But
Oh, sorry,
was,
I disagree. Sorry, specifically.
I think that. I think that like at least in a capitalist nation, right? If a private institution wants to offer specialized care, right? Like if across the board, people should have basically equal high standard healthcare.
Yes.
But if there is
mean-
a private institution that wants to offer more specialized services, the rich should be privy to that. And if people can't afford it, then they can't afford it.
I mean,
So-
How do
I
you
agree.
explain it?
the way it works in Germany is such, right? Like, if you have the standard healthcare, then if something, or like, let me phrase it differently. Like, the difference between standard and private healthcare is just that, like, if something serious happens, then you actually have the same healthcare. But if it's like about going to the doctor and you want like I don't know, like just talk with him, then you're definitely like your wait time is shorter if you're private.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's basically the same in Sweden as well.
But
So I think basically that should be an ability because I have like my dad suffered from back I don't know what the disc joint. I don't know what the English word for it, but
Slip disc or herniated disc.
yeah,
Yeah.
something like that.
Okay.
And he has had problems for years actually, and it got bad like a few months, like 1 year ago, and he still can't get a time at the public. If he had a private insurance, the operation would be done now.
Yeah, but that's endemic amongst public healthcare across the board. Like the NHS in the UK is failing; they're bankrupt basically, and that's
Yeah.
because that's public healthcare, and they can't afford it. They can't afford giving super high standards to everybody because that's not realistic.
Yeah,
You have to make money somehow. Yeah,
But why is it realistic in I don't know Germany?
because you guys got shit stepped on healthcare. I don't know.
What the fuck?
The implementation of
like,
these things
also-
tends to be.
But also at the same time, like, does it not make more sense for everyone receive the same high standard of healthcare. Because if everyone gets the same level of treatment, then realistically, like, you can get in and out very quickly, in theory.
True.
But I
can
think
they
that
though?
doctors are already criminally underpaid in public systems. And if you want to offer that to everybody, it's unrealistic and unfeasible to afford their salaries.
So therefore, the government should step in and pay doctors higher wages. Which
Yeah, that's a
means if the
government problem.
Yeah, right. Like,
Wait,
that's
I
where-
mean, you can solve it in two ways. You can solve it either through the government spending billions on healthcare, or set up private institutions that only the rich can afford.
but wait a second. This
Yeah.
assumes that hospitals are private, right?
And the problem with setting up like privatized healthcare is that, like, it breeds how do I want to word this? So essentially, like, if it puts people in a mindset of like, oh, like, if you can't afford it, then if you die while waiting to get it, that's your problem.
True.
Yeah, I understand. Like,
And like,
you
that's kind of
guys,
fucked up.
just to be clear, you guys from Canada as well, both of you.
Yep.
Yep. I mean, if you look at the US perspective, then that system is kind of crap. I
It's
like,
insane, dude.
yeah, it's kind of crazy. But I think in Swedish terms, I don't know about how the healthcare system works in Canada, but I think it's they should have the ability to pay. It's like it's private.
We have a
I think
mixture of
maybe-
private and public. It's fairly robust. It's like I think the mixture like works to some degree. I just find that generally public healthcare and the implementation, private healthcare and the implementation of it tends to be like a net drain to public healthcare on a lot of levels. If you like opt out of the public like healthcare option essentially and like opt in for private, you're draining money out of the public system. A lot of like it's really fucking dumb the way it works. You'd think that private means that it's fully privately funded, but the government tends to subsidize a lot of private operations for healthcare in Canada, for education in Canada. It's absolutely fucking asinine, ass backwards. So the way it's implemented here, it tends to actually harm public healthcare because you're removing money from it, and it just fucks it. It makes it worse for everybody.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true. I think in the UK there are privatized hospitals, but they're rarer because everyone relies on the NHS. But the problem is that the NHS consumes more government money per year than almost any other industry, and that's one of the main reasons why they're failing. And the private institutions are not getting enough push, I think. But I think it also kind of depends where you're from, maybe.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's the.
Well, I think
main-
also in like if you look at like the state's healthcare system, like what they charge you,
Yeah,
I
it's
think
insane.
for like
Yeah,
doing the standard things, like it's astronomically high.
Yeah,
Right.
ridiculous. Yeah.
Like
And
actually,
private healthcares afford them the ability to do that. So that's why, like, you know, people are having to take out second mortgages on going to the hospital just because they broke a leg or something.
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah, it's true. I
personally
remember reading
know-
one story about some guy who got like a cold or something, and then went into it, got a CAT scan and everything, and then he was bankrupt by the time he got out, like a day
Dude,
later or something.
there are even worse cases. Like a friend of my family in USA died because he was basically sick, right? But he didn't want to go to the doctor, and then when he wanted to go to the doctor, it was actually that severe that he couldn't anymore, by himself, you know. And he was living alone, so he just died because the doctor was too expensive to go there for a cold, but it wasn't actually a cold. It would actually be something that was actually dangerous. So I mean,
I'd like to give like a pretty good point like in supporting that that notion essentially with why public healthcare tends to be like just something that we definitely should invest in and definitely have. And it's that like what you mentioned, how you didn't want to go to the hospital and stuff. That's a huge reason why like being taxed money and then having it put towards public healthcare is actually really, really efficient, because when healthcare is free for people, they tend to go in much earlier when there's any sign of any problem and address it early on. And this ends up being way cheaper to address these issues if you catch them early on. And so what it means is that like for every dollar you invest into healthcare, you actually get like a net return of like more than $1 worth of value, depending on where you are geographically in like healthcare, essentially. It's called the return on investment.
Hey, Sweller Raptor 35, thanks for a follow.
Oh, are we streaming right now? Is that what's happening?
Yeah,
Big
I'm
stream.
on Twitch.
I'm streaming. 13 Army streaming.
Wait, you're streaming too? Okay. Wait, what's your stream then? Nova as well? Oh,
Mine?
No.
I'm streaming on YouTube and Facebook.
Oh.
Oh, that's cool.
Hell yeah. Yeah, both under the guise of Novus as like the moniker.
Yes, Sweller Raptor just pointed out that I thought that the rich are too highly taxed. I just wanted to point out that
you had a guilt hanger properly.
I had a Swedish opinion about it. In the US consent,
I've just seen it. I'm like, oh.
I do disagree.
Wiped a tear from my eye.
Hell yeah.
That's my talent. One of my talents.
All right. Well, I think that we're
No one else.
across the board. We're generally sitting on agree for the with the ability to pay should have access to higher sites.
Definitely.
Yeah. Should we jump to the next one then?
Yep.
You guys want to add something?
I would say that I like probably personally like don't like I agree with the concept in our current like system and I see the merit to it, but I probably at the end of the day think that like getting rid of private systems would end up solving a lot of the issues that we have in the public systems and how they're underfunding and stuff. But yeah, that's it. That's like my closing statement essentially.
Oh, cool. Government should penalize businesses that mislead the public.
Yeah, definitely.
Strongly agree.
Yeah, I agree.
I like this is not something you can argue about, right?
Yeah, I don't think I don't know how you'd argue against this one.
I think just the only problem that I can see with this is who is the government and what's their agenda. If it's like let's say for Trump, should he be able to penalize businesses that he doesn't like? I know.
No.
Do you
Mislead
get
the public, right?
No, but in his view, is misleading the public. I mean, there's a lot of opinions that doesn't have a right and wrong answer.
Yeah, no matter what side of the spectrum you're on, you'd probably agree with this, I guess, no matter what. But it would just be that we would probably personally disagree with people like who think misleading the public is actually just like speaking facts.
Yeah.
But
I guess if you're like American, you could invoke the Second Amendment or something.
yeah, but that's big.
Free speech, my free speech kind of.
My
thing.
free speech.
All right.
Well,
yeah, that one seems pretty
straightforward. I don't think we need to discuss that anymore.
I would personally put strongly agree there on the government's should penalize businesses. But if you're sitting on agree, then we consider agree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm just gonna try to. I mean, I don't want to give the government too much power. That's why I do agree.
Right.
Is that a fine argument?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Fine. You can. It's your test, right?
Genuine free market requires restrictions on the ability of predator multinationals to create monopolies.
Of course.
Not really. If it's a genuine free market.
Yeah, but this is a bad
Yeah.
thing, right?
Well, it would
Genuine
collapse
free
upon
market
itself
is
and not
fucking
be free.
insane.
Yeah. The actions that monopolies create, the negative consequences of monopolies, ends up restricting freedom. And so to have a truly free market, you need to restrict the ability of the predatory, like, multinationals, I guess, right? The predatory practices.
Imagine I have the monopoly on water, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
Ah,
I can
that's-
basically squeeze every single penny you
That-
have. out of it.
That's a
Yeah.
stupid example,
It's
but
what?
let's take. Yeah, I get what you mean.
I mean, in fairness, if you
I
manage to
suppose, like, in
monopolize
exact-
water, you fucking earned it, mate.
but,
That's some
I mean-
serious effort that's gone in.
but I suppose, like, if you're talking just about the philosophical principles of what a free market is, right? It would allow, theoretically, the creation of monopolies.
Yeah, but the
So, I
free
mean,
market is
kind of-
insane.
But that's in like,
It's
yeah, in
actually
contrast
insane.
to like actual free market principles then, right? So you have to, right? It's the same thing as like freedoms and rights in general. In order to be like we could talk about like absolute like freedom to do anything, right? Or freedom in its
Yep.
like absolute estate. And then we would assume that would mean that I could just go out and kill people and stuff, right? And murder people,
exactly.
whoever I want.
Yeah.
But to achieve true freedom would be to restrict our ability to murder other people, because now I have the freedom to not walk around concerned about being murdered, right? So you actually achieve higher levels of freedom with like strategic restrictions on things that would reduce freedom essentially.
Yeah, I don't think I think we are still in the same opinion, but I mean, true freedom isn't containing any regulations.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I would agree with it. It would require.
Cool.
It's just
Hell yeah.
it's just basically the
Oh no, abortion.
dropping the bomb.
6 lads
We should-
talking about
We should
abortion
probably go through this like
right.
one by one individually here. I'm thinking.
Yeah, sure. I can start.
Sure.
I'm already on
so-
page 5, so y'all need to catch up.
Okay, basically, to a certain extent, they should be allowed to do it. I think Sweden, we have like week 14 or 16 or yeah, however, but that the conflict obviously comes when do you consider it to be alive and a human being, and of course, what do we define an alive human being? I think let me just read a question. Abortion when the woman's life's not threatened should always be strongly disagree. Yeah, I think it should not be always available,
Yeah.
but in the early weeks, yeah.
For this one, for me, is like, I think I'm pro-choice all the way. Like, it is the woman's body; she should have every right to say whether or not if she wants to be pregnant.
It depends on how far the embryos develop, right? Obviously.
I mean, I think that's the most agreeable answer, right?
Yeah.
Depending on how old the child is.
Yeah.
I don't know where I sit
Yeah,
on this.
I'd like to-
It's a bit late if they're like 4 years old.
I think I'd like to cut into this conversation right here, because this is where I'm gonna have like a fundamental maybe disagreement with your like how you guys are forming your opinions here. Maybe I don't know if you are this way, but I find nobody's gonna agree. Nobody's gonna agree on at what point in time like a child is considered, or like an embryo or like a fetus or whatever is considered to be human, because it's not it's not something that can be empirically determined. It is arbitrarily determined. The line is drawn by every individual. We will sit here and argue like endlessly about where that line is, and it's useless to me. So for abortion, I don't care about the life argument, because there's no way to ever like land on a solid answer.
Yeah.
So instead, I like to approach this one with like we could still approach it with human rights and stuff, right? But it's pretty much about like, once again, with where I draw back most of my conclusions, individual happiness, human happiness, and maximizing that. And so if we do consider a fully grown adult woman, or like a woman who can have offspring, to be like human and to be afforded human rights, so to speak, then I would say that it should be her choice, right? What she does with her body. If she is having a child and decides that she doesn't want it for a plethora of reasons, including like, it doesn't even like, so it says here if her life's not threatened.
Yeah.
I would extend it beyond that too here and say like, well, like so with this statement, I would say strongly disagree, and I would say because it's only saying if her life's not threatened. That's not enough for me. If she can't afford to have a child, and that that's like a long-term implicit threat on her life to some degree, or her quality of life, right? So I would say that's a really good reason.
I think you're understanding the question a little bit wrong. To be honest.
No, but
No. The part with the woman's life. It's like even though the woman's life is not threatened, should it still be illegal?
Yeah, the way that this worded essentially is telling me like, hey, if the woman's life isn't threatened, it should be illegal. That's what it's saying. Like abortion, yeah, when a woman's life isn't threatened. So if the fetus isn't like going to potentially kill her by giving birth to it, if the fetus presents no threat to her like life in order to like birth it, then it should just be illegal like to abort children. And I have to disagree with that because it's much more complex than just that.
To disagree because I don't think like somewhere about. I mean, you don't accept it when it's 9 months and when it's out of the vagina, really.
Yes.
Well, that couldn't be abortion then, though, right? You would just be killing them.
Put it back in.
So yeah.
Yeah, no, that would be murder.
Another 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah, no, exactly. And then like, where do we draw the line? 8 months and 8.5
There's
months.
no right to law. There's no line to draw because you can't know when consciousness develops.
Yeah.
You just can't.
I think the main issue that many people have here is that they conflate philosophical leanings with actual like legal leanings, right?
I was gonna say, like the case here is should be illegal is fairly easy to answer. Is moral?
That's a good point.
Question.
Yeah, exactly. But the problem is that everyone starts talking about like a child is this old and a child is alive and blah 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 and should be whatever, right? And so you do not abort or you do abort or whatever.
It's highly moralized.
That's not help. It's I think that the question itself should just be approached from a legal standpoint, whether or not people should have freedom of choice or not, and that's that's something.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah, to some degree. I mean, like laws and what's illegal or legal is largely based on like a moral system too, right? So it kind of goes hand in hand. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I think this one you should answer yourself. I think all of us will have different sort of places on the spectrum we place ourselves. So it's more helpful if you just do this yourself.
True.
I'm pretty sure we all agree on the principle. The only thing we might disagree on is when is the time where it's too far. Like
True.
too old.
And we could argue about that forever. We'll never resolve anything on that conversation.
Yeah.
Ever.
I'm just gonna point out a really interesting from Swell the Raptor in chat. And when a baby is in the wound of a mother's stomach, it already has a set of DNA that can't be replaced, and that's something unique as well.
I guess, but is that constitutional of life, though?
Just because something's unique, does that mean that we have to preserve it at all costs?
No, not at all costs. But
I think we this is not stupid, but it goes towards stupid because even with myself, I could discuss this for a million years and I wouldn't get an answer.
True.
Yeah.
The voices
sorry, one second. What's that, 13 Army?
I got my compass.
What does that mean?
Oh, really?
Oh, you finished it?
Save it so we can see what all of us kind of lean on.
Yeah, we can all tell our results in approximately 5 hours.
True. I wasn't even doing the test. I didn't know that there was
I'm gonna be
link
ending my stream in like 26 minutes.
Yeah. Oh no, should probably get a speed on this.
Did you say that you were streaming?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Right. Carry on.
Let me out.
All authorities should be questioned. Yeah, I strongly
Disagree.
I agree.
Or yeah, I can go agree.
How can you disagree on that? That's insane.
I think that there are so many stupid people in the world.
I know.
Yes. I mean, obviously,
And-
yeah, but like
No,
this also affects the authority, right?
But of course, but like there's one hand, right, that kind of wants you to say, "Oh, the people in charge are fucking idiots," which they are, and then so you should question their leadership. But on the other hand, right, there is some sort of authority in science and some sort of authority in medicine. Should that be questioned?
It should be
'cause you
questioned
should
by
always
other
be-
people who are like knowledgeable in that field.
Yeah, sure.
You should always get a second opinion on everything.
Yes, I did the test. No, you can't see the result.
Yeah, all authorities should be questioned. In principle, is like a strongly agree answer. It's just whether or not that questioning is a valid questioning.
Yeah, if everyone should get be able to question it. I mean, like,
Exactly.
should
Which
you
is
be
why-
able to question? Oh, fuck me. Should you be able to question everything that you don't like, basically?
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, because if this principle was placed just openly, right, which it is in America, for example, then you get stupid Trump, flat Earth, anti-COVID, fucking believers.
The four horsemen of
That's
the
a-
apocalypse.
Exactly.
Yeah, baby.
That's what you get,
But to be
and
fair,
that's why I disagree with it.
to be fair, I rather have every idiot questioning authority than like me myself not being able to question it.
Yes, it's necessary.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Okay.
It's really unfortunate, but it's necessary.
I mean, maybe I don't know. We should limit who is able to talk in general. But that's a different topic.
Yeah.
Or like openly about like political stuff.
Today, Congress has announced its first global nuke function.
All right, next one. An eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth makes the world blind. Finish it with me, fellas. Makes the
Wait a
world
second.
blind.
And
Say
gummy?
that on Twitch. Everyone.
I disagree with that.
I disagree. I don't strongly
is the-
disagree, but I disagree.
What is the premise
Yeah,
of this statement?
What was that? Sorry, Quentin?
What's the premise of this statement? What is it trying to allude?
Oh, so it's like
if you punch someone, they get the right to punch you back. If you
Equal like punishment, I guess, or whatever, or equal.
yeah,
Okay.
Yes.
equal punishment
The
done by
biggest
the
way,
one
you know.
who is
So like a really simple, kind of legal punishment, right? Not really. In the U.S., I think, is the crime of passion. So, for example, if someone kills your son, and then you kill someone that's related to them, or you kill them, that's called a crime of passion, and it's sort of possible.
This is restorative justice, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Is that what
I
it's
think
called?
so. Yeah.
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 Big cringe. Big disagree.
It's not restorative justice, it's killing a man in the heat of passion.
Oh. Normally I don't kill men in heat of passion, but
not normally,
But I
but
mean, that's not
occasionally.
justice, right? That's revenge.
I think the most wise
Good,
answer to
though.
this is Gandhi. It makes the world blind.
Yep.
I also
I
disagree with this.
I can't. I really. I want more of it than it's today.
it tends to have a net negative effect on society. Where does it stop? Where do you draw the line? If I am allowed to, like, so if my son, yeah, like you said, my son gets fucking, like, let's say raped or whatever, and then I'm allowed to, like, equivocate that punishment back, kind of thing. Like, we end up degenerating. Society will fucking collapse on itself. There's no way.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I think that's viewed on the utilitarian perspective, though. I'm not a utilitarian myself, but sure. Yeah,
Unbelievable.
Remember, boys,
I'm just
rape
kidding.
if you vote screaming.
Oh well.
I'm sure we can reach similar conclusions without having to both
Yeah,
be from a
yeah.
utilitarian framework, though.
Yeah.
I'm a quite feelings person in this area. Fuck, I agree.
I mean, if you agree, go with agree, I guess.
If you agree, you agree. Go for
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
but
Yeah, it's your
I
test.
mean,
You do you.
I mean, that's my like emotions answer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
agree. And disagree is like the more logic answer.
I
If
mean,
you-
to be fair, right? To be fair, like for me personally, if someone punches, I might punch him back, even though afterwards, in retrospective, I might
Yeah.
disagree with the concept.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
I guess we're like
Exactly.
arguing this more from like a legal standpoint. I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Like whether there should be like
Yeah.
like a society imposed like rules on this.
Yeah, if it's actually
Okay.
allowed, then
Yeah.
Yeah, true. Well, you can just flip a coin and choose between strongly disagree and strongly agree. Your choice.
Okay. Taxpayers should not be expected to prop. What?
Ooh,
This is
interesting.
actually a hard one, I think.
Yeah, this is a really hard one.
Mm,
I agree. I think I agree.
I also
agree.
agree.
I agree. I agree.
I also agree, but it depends, right?
Yeah,
Like, this
exactly.
would be something where I would slightly agree, like less than agree, but more than disagree. I don't know how to say that, right? Because some knowledge is actually worth preserving. Like, it doesn't matter how much it costs.
Like, there's knowledge worth
Yeah, but-
preserving that is not interesting at all, is what
Yeah.
you're saying.
Yeah,
True.
exactly.
But think
there's
about how many
also
shit
knowledge.
theaters there are.
That is not worth preserving. But
Yeah, but I mean, just think about how many shit theaters and shit museums there are.
that is true.
Right.
I'm saying it depends on the case, right?
Yeah,
But I
true.
rather have like useless knowledge preserved than actually important knowledge to be damaged.
True. But I mean, the ones
That's
that are
where the
important.
Steam guides come in.
No, like the actual museums and theaters that will survive are the ones that are good and are valuable and will survive on a commercial basis.
No, they're the ones that are fun and interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
And that's why people go to them when they get money.
With aquariums, problem solved.
True. All right,
Just
next
put all
one.
the old ancient paper from civilizations
sure.
in the aquarium.
School should not make classroom attendance compulsory.
Compulsory is
strong
mandatory.
Yeah.
Strong, yeah, it is. Yeah, strongly disagree.
I strongly agree.
Everyone
with that.
should-
Disagree. Yeah. Education is.
What?
I kind of actually strongly agreed with this one. I think school
Yeah,
should
I
be
agree too.
mandatory.
School. Wait, what do you think?
Nerds forcing me to go to school.
I think school should be mandatory.
I agree.
But
Yeah.
attendance is compulsory. What that is mandatory, isn't it?
No, I think
Yeah.
it's still mandatory to appear to the tests and shit. But like, I don't think it should be mandatory to
Okay,
appear in
let's-
the school in the
Let's
class.
just clear out.
Ah,
Let's just
No.
clear out. I think children should attend school. Is it that strongly or disagree or strongly agree?
Strongly agree. Children should attend school.
So what?
strongly agree.
Then
Children should
you
attend
should
school.
strongly disagree.
Yeah, and they should strongly disagree because this is should not make class attendance compulsory. So it should be strongly disagree.
Okay.
Schools should
Not
not
Oh,
make
yeah,
class
yeah.
attendance.
classroom
Oh,
attendance.
yeah,
Okay.
strongly disagree. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
So
would
I was
strongly
Fucking
agree.
English.
Literally. fucking
Yeah. English,
have
some
water.
language.
Okay.
All right.
All people have
their
the rights, but it's
Strongly disagree.
I mean, this is actually racist, right?
This is we're talking about like segregation now, right?
If you agree with this, you believe in segregation.
I'm not sure why I even added the bit about rights in the beginning. Like, the second
Literally.
part is just a different point.
Wait
Yeah.
a second.
That's basically a famous person doubling down on Twitter. It's like, look, I'm saying all people have their rights, but
Yeah, literally. Oh my fuck.
those brown folks, though.
I agree with what you said, but
Yeah,
Oh, man.
no,
I just want
okay,
to
so
get ahead of. I want to get ahead of the press and say that I'm not an awful person. However,
here's my terrible opinion.
but,
okay, so
like
on
guys.
this, I think.
Yep.
Sorry, go on. Go on. Sorry.
Okay. I think it's let's see. I think we should different sorts of people. That's kind of, if you would say cultures or would say a group of people. I think Swedes should be with Swedes. If you know what I mean. I think that
Are we talking
eases
about
up,
veg?
it keeps a stable ground. Oh fuck me.
Mm.
Do you guys get what I'm saying?
I mean,
It's
for
I think
me,
it's
right? I think that it's important to preserve cultures by keeping people with their own kind and enabling that. But I think it's also
not really.
important for other cultures to mix together
Yeah,
and kind of meld.
I think you can have cultures mixed while still preserving the original culture.
But
Yeah.
that's really not what I meant. I mean, I think it's a more stable ground if we all have the same beliefs, really. Ah, fuck, that sounds so
No,
bad.
I get what you mean.
Your beliefs are like really not good for the the minorities.
I feel,
Yeah.
I feel like
I
also
think
that's a very short-term thinking, right?
So
I can give
it's
an example from my own country on this, actually. So my own country, we're one of them. I think we're definitely not as like culturally diverse as New York or
Germany.
say Canada, right?
Or
However,
London.
the way that or London, however, our actual demographics are far more multicultural diverse as a whole. So we have 50% of us are Muslims, 30% are Chinese, and then like something like 15 to 17% are Indians, and then the rest are a mix
Why
of
were those two
Right.
different demographics?
their
One's a
ethnicities.
Sorry?
religion and one's a...
No. Muslim.
Their ethnic-
It's a reference to ethnicity specifically.
But I'm
Yeah,
not
I
talking
think-
about ethnicity. Fuck, I'm getting tired here, you guys. It's 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
but I think people that share the same beliefs end up better together in some
I don't think so.
some way.
I actually agree with that. However, I think that it's not better to keep to your own kind. It's
No,
important to
exactly.
melt with your own kind, but join
that-
and
This is what I mean with an including nationalism. Like, I'm not segregating based on color of skin, or I mean, basically,
Culture.
I'm
is what
pro
you mean, right?
like, hey, do you want to live in our awesome community? We have these rules. Do you want to follow them? Yeah, sure. Come on, go ahead. Come in.
So culture, basically.
But I
Yeah.
think the question is suggesting something more sinister, which is keep. Keep to their own kind.
It also
Yes.
says better for all of us.
So perhaps
Well, to
a
Raptor,
good way to
thank you
view
for
this.
checking by. And have a good day.
Perhaps a way to view this would be like, I don't know if this is rephrasing the question that would render this question kind of different, but would you guys agree to the idea that like forcing people or like having set rules that say like that these people here are allowed to like reject other people from coming into their community? Like, do you think that that's a bad thing?
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Cool.
It is a bad thing, but it should still be like if we are talking about
It would
community,
depend
like
if it went both
social
ways.
structures, right? Then it
Yeah.
should be allowed still, because else it's kind of weird. Not saying it's
Mm.
good.
It's basically, I like to hang out with people that have a like to ride their bikes. I keep better with them than people who go fishing. It's
Oh yeah, for
basically-
sure. I mean,
But
Yeah.
I get the idea. I don't think this should be forced by some government or some.
Yeah.
I don't
some
think
way.
it's necessarily saying that you're forced to integrate with other people. I think it's just rather about like, should
No.
there be rules restricting other people from being able to come in by
Yeah.
free will?
No, definitely no. But
Yeah.
but I mean the social group should definitely be allowed to reject those people as well.
Well, that would be functionally the same thing then as not being allowed.
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
I'm not
I don't
saying
know how
that
I
it's
feel
good,
about
but
that.
it still should be allowed.
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that specifically, because then it just breeds more intolerance.
Yeah.
Of course, yes.
Yeah,
Maybe like as an
that's
individual,
the-
like friend group level kind of thing. Of course, like if I don't want to be
Yeah.
friends with X person,
mean-
then I have that right individually. But if we're talking about like a community or like wanting to move somewhere and
Exactly,
be a part of this
that's
small
the
town or
problem.
whatever, I think that anyone should be allowed to move there if like there's a house for
Yeah,
them to
sure.
move into and stuff, you know.
But that's isn't really the question either, right?
So what is
So
the question
all
then?
people- But
It
all
is better
people have their
for
rights.
all of us.
But it's better for
Well, no,
all
I
of
mean,
us, a different
It's
sorts
better for all of
people
us.
should-
If people should keep to the
I
overtime,
feel
then
like the
I-
important
I-
word of this is kind, right?
Yeah,
Their own
kind is.
Like this is the one that gives it the racist touch, right?
But
Yeah.
not necessarily. But yeah,
The zest of racism.
Yeah.
Just the slide.
I'm just gonna go disagree. Or
yeah, I think that's
let's
fair.
let's
I
just
think
skip that one. We could argue back and
Yes,
forth all night.
strongly
True.
agree.
Strongly agree.
Good parents.
Strongly agree.
Okay, good parents sometimes have to spank their children.
I actually disagree. I don't
I
strongly
agree.
I don't
disagree,
think
but I disagree.
spanking, but
Fuck.
no, I disagree. I don't think spanking is a way to enforce it. Or
And spanking is kind of creepy if it's a dad. So
I'd like to
Like-
hop in on this one. Humans are extremely intelligent. There's almost no. Well, okay. Humans have extreme potential for intelligence, especially when we're talking
Yeah,
about
I
children.
like
Have
that.
been
I like
rumors.
that.
When we're talking about children who have not absorbed everything and become dumbass, fucking like COVID denying pieces of shit. So there's lots of potential. Like you can see this from very, very early ages on humans too, right? Because like how quickly do children just like pick up language like as if it's nothing? It's insane. It's actually insane. And they understand really complex ideas, pattern-seeking behaviors and stuff. Of course, these things are like exist in other animals as well, like things like pattern-seeking and stuff, right, for survival. But humans are just really, really intelligent, especially children. I see no reason why approaching like trying to teach a child through like violent acts or whatever kind of thing would be an effective approach. You're always going to end up with traumas and stuff, things that make their life harder later on. I think that humans are way more capable, like children are way more capable of learning things in a less violent way than that.
It's basically it's worse when a parent is disappointed than angry.
I think
That's true.
that's a fair point, although that's a very Western perspective on the way that you're brought up.
Yep.
It's not going to be homogenous in the way that we view violence in that regard.
Right, for sure.
My country.
You know,
In my country, if the children misbehave, we just take them to the birthing cliff.
Oh my god.
no, because I think that the way that you view acts of violence is completely arbitrary and subjective to your own experiences as a child, which is why Black people, as well as Asians, a light spanking is not even seen as violence; it's seen as discipline. And there's it's just the way that you're brought up that you see these kinds of things in a particular way.
Yeah, for sure.
I would say
My-
it's just
my
technically violent discipline. Discipline can come in many forms, right? It's definitely
Okay.
violence, right? Because it's inflicting like physical harm onto somebody, right? And even violence can even be implicit too. You don't need. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't
But
need to
to
be
be
physical
honest-
either.
Would
mean,
you
I'm-
always
I'm-
rate like physical harm higher than emotional harm?
I've had this argument before. I don't know how to end this argument.
That age is going to be the same.
I think
don't know. Like,
they both need to be
honestly,
considered.
It depends.
Well, I
because
guess-
in my childhood, it might be me arguing out of retrospective, right? But
Mhm.
sometimes I actually like would have preferred to get slapped a little bit than like whatever like a disappointing glare I achieved.
Oh yeah, for sure. Those things need to be considered too, for sure. So
Yeah.
I would consider both of those things to be equally negative, maybe in my eyes. Spanking is like a physical thing. It's from somebody that you trust, right? And so it has the same kind of negative like connotations and same kind of trauma that you can build as say your parent being disappointed in you. The proper approach here is like an educational approach, right? Like an understanding one, for sure.
Yeah,
I would argue that physical I would argue that physical would be worse, just because it would have the same emotional effect as having a mean glare from across the room, except
Yeah.
you also have the physical aspect to it.
That's actually a good
really
point.
depends. It depends. If you're just getting like glare and that's the mental abuse that you're getting, like in the grand scheme of things, it's not very much. But if you have like parents that will like consistently like talk down to you, accuse
Or
you
not
of
talk to you at all.
yeah, not talk to you at all, like stuff like that, that can
Yeah.
really psychologically like fuck you up.
All of
and
these
it'll
things
have
can scale.
much long-lasting effects than like a bruise from being hit
Yeah,
physically.
I mean, take it this way, I think, right? A spank is not going to leave a bruise. An actual abuse case is going to leave a bruise. That's just step one. Second thing is, I think that when physical pain is used as an incentivizer to prevent disagreeable or negative action, that is far less damaging on the child than an actual attack on the mental facility.
It's possible.
Okay, guys. People with serious inheritable disabilities should not be allowed to reproduce.
Yeah,
This is dumb.
I'm not answering this one.
Paper, you're from the most suited nationality for this. Would you like to start?
Lamau.
Oh man, no, I'm not answering this, but I have no idea.
You already answered it.
Obviously, it's strongly disagree, right? Should not be allowed to. Yeah, it's strongly disagree, right?
Yeah, otherwise you'd be talking eugenics.
Yeah, exactly. But like in long term, like if you would have done that like 1,000 years ago or like 2,000
Exactly,
years
that's
ago,
my point.
then.
But for example, should HIV patients be allowed to reproduce?
Yes, because you have a chance of not passing on HIV.
Yeah. You can have children even if you have HIV.
Fair enough.
But I'm
the issue with this is that like you frame it depends on like what you view as like a disability and a negative thing. A lot of people view autism as a very bad thing. Really, if you look into it, there's nothing really bad about autism. It's just that they don't have the function in their brain generally to perceive social norms and stuff, right? So they just don't fit in as nicely into society as we want them to. There's nothing actually wrong with autism.
But could we find something that's a serious inheritable disability?
Obesity. No, I'm kidding.
No, but like a serious that would
what
be
about like schizophrenia, for example. Like that's very inheritable.
That's a terrible one, actually. Yeah,
You can look at people who have like 4 fingers on every hand and stuff.
I think that would just be similar to the autism one, where it's like, well, they just don't look the same as us, but like, really.
Yeah. No, I have a friend that actually has that, but it's not cool for him, honestly.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm sure the life is fucking hard.
Like, just imagine, everyone can drive a car normally, but you're the only guy who just can't.
True. Texting would also be cringe.
I mean,
you can't even bind your shoes, right? You know.
Oh wait, I'm assuming the thumb is what's missing. That's probably wrong.
I think in today's society, I should disagree because I can't
strongly disagree. This is insane.
You can strongly disagree. You're forced to. Society forces you to strongly disagree.
Actually, I
can't find a reason for it, but I understand the idea of it.
Mm-hmm.
But me making that choice for another person it's not really my decision.
Yeah,
true.
But I get the idea. I like it. We do
the answer to this
with
question
hunting really
should be based on should not be allowed instead of shouldn't.
Yes, I think that's a better but that's not what the question is.
Better phrasing.
Oh yeah.
I think the only kinds of people that will actually strongly agree are Nazis here. They want the Ubermensch to come through.
True, ethno-state babies.
All right, move on.
But
Yep.
this is also a thing like with Nazis.
I'm
and
just
this
gonna
also-
skip through those.
I'm just gonna end my stream here.
Well,
real quick.
I saw one you said that weed should not be a criminal thing. Weed should just not be criminal.
But
Weed is
I mean, one thing I wanted to state still, like about Nazis, right? Like a lot of people think that the worst thing about Nazis was the racism shit. This was the worst thing about Nazis, by the way. The
Yeah.
genetic shit.
True. Wait, hold on. Can you go back up? Can you go back up to the one where you talked about weed?
We're not
Oh,
done
yeah.
filling out your test yet.
I know. I just want to see it because I don't know. Why do you
Wait,
disagree with it?
the one guy left.
Because I think that a lot of people end up in criminal. It's basically if we would take a ban on alcohol, a lot of people would just be criminalized or seen as criminalized. I don't think weed is that big of a problem, even though I'm not an advocate for drugs in any way, and I fucking hate people doing drugs. I just like seeing the market value of drugs rises, and those cartels that's basically doing it. The only reason.
Oh, you're back. Never mind.
I mean,
Yeah, the reason
mean,
why it's that's basically.
fair enough, but I think that the only reason why the cartels have so much power with drugs is because they are specifically that they're criminalized.
Yeah, they're the only
illegal.
ones who have like the ability to like buy it and sell it essentially because no one else can legally do it.
Exactly.
So it's forced into the darkness.
My friend,
Yeah.
like one thing, I have a different point of view with that because, like, I mean, it's very situational. I would also disagree with that in principle, but the problem you guys are not seeing is that decriminalizing that makes the weed more expensive.
Yeah, that's.
Weed's kind of a luxury though, right? So I don't like.
I mean, if
Yeah.
it gets legal, I would pay more for weed than if it's illegal.
Should you?
Oh,
Would
yeah.
you really though?
That's a good point. Yeah.
Would you really though?
Yes, of course. If it's
What?
legal, I have to pay taxes, and companies would produce it.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
it's not legal, I can just tell my buddy to not rip me off.
True, but then the taxes would
Uh.
like probably go into your economy to some way and hopefully be a positive effect on it, right? So that might actually be a good thing.
That is true, but still.
I feel it. As an individual, like it seems like you enjoy the benefits of like maybe being able to like buy it, but also if it's so say like through the government, and so we've legalized weed in Canada, right? Big
Yeah.
PP. I don't do drugs at all. I was staunchly opposed to them in high school. I've switched my position on like I've completely 180 my position on drug use now. Like now that I'm older and stuff, I don't use drugs still, but like I've changed my opinion about other people using it. Essentially, I think that it's also like better for like people in general that something like, well, maybe more than just, it would be nice if it was more than just weed, but say for example if we legalized all drugs, then your like chances of getting a fentanyl overdose from like a government regulated supplied dose of a drug is exponentially lower, right? This means
depends
you'll
on
lose
the
less friends
drug.
and family to these things.
It depends on the drug.
You say that?
Exactly. That's why I had to
Given
talk
you
about
by
like
the
all
government,
drugs.
there'd
Like
be nothing stopping you from just saving it up for a couple of weeks.
That is true as well.
Mm.
But
But
it definitely
I
depends
think
on the
you-
drug.
I
I
agree.
wouldn't legalize heroin.
Yeah.
Pussy.
I would not want people to get access to opium, right? Like opiates are insane.
Yeah, that's true.
In civilized society, one must always have people above to be obeyed and people below to be commanded. Let's go, Nito, Marcus, main dialect. Let's go.
Strongly
I'm down for it. I'm
disagree
down
with
for
that.
it. Agree,
no.
agree,
I
buddy.
couldn't
Let's
strong- he
go.
couldn't more
authoritarians in chat, baby.
Let's
I-
go.
I-
Civilized.
I couldn't.
I could
more
agree with
strongly
it,
disagree with that.
but it must not always. But I think in some cases it's needed, but it's
I
not always.
think-
I strongly
I don't
agree
know,
with
I
that,
don't
but only if I'm the guy above.
That's pretty much every single authoritarian ever. Big PP.
No, the reason why I think it always has to be, and the reason why I strongly agree with that, is because money rules the world. And money,
Is that a good
because
thing?
of the way it is, it forces social power hierarchies that you cannot disagree with.
No, that's
You are
not true.
forced to pay with money.
That's not true.
And
though.
because it is because they dictate the policies, they dictate, because they're the ones that sit with the politicians at the end of the day, and they don't sit with the government at the end of the day, and they tell you,
Yeah,
and
but
they
this
influence.
is not because of money in general. This is because of the system we implement that we have with money.
Yeah, true. But I think at the end of the day, that is what happens.
It is what happens, yes, but it's because of the system, not because of money in general.
Yeah, it's like money plays a role, but it's not like the major contributing
It's
factor.
not the
I guess.
driving factor, I guess.
Yeah.
Right.
I think with this one, I would have to disagree with it based on how it's phrased, I guess. Being that like there has to be someone at the top controlling and somebody below following or whatever, or being controlled. I am a huge advocate for democracy. That seems just undemocratic in general, like based on the way that it's presented to me. But I do understand the utility in like coordination and organization. I just don't think that it needs to be like an all-powerful kind of situation.
Astrology accurately explains.
What the fuck?
Strongly agree,
Like-
buddy.
How does this decide where you are on the political spectrum? Does this just automatically make you right-wing?
Not sure.
This automatically makes you left wing, buddy. What do you mean?
Oh, fuck, you right. Lamau.
That's such
Oh,
a
the-
Sagittarius way of thinking.
Wait a second.
Oh my
Who
God,
just
you're such a
who just BM'd me?
Capricorn.
I'm just kidding.
You're such a Leo. Like the moons are in retrograde right now.
Wait, you agree with astrology?
Astrology accurately explains many things.
You're
yeah.
thinking of astronomy.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
you might be an
what is that? Then? What is it then?
This is
Astrology
like-
is horoscopes and shit.
Oh,
Yeah, stop.
Oh no.
oh, for fuck's sake!
I think I know
I
that,
just
buddy.
saw
Go
this.
with
Fucking meme, son.
Oh, for fuck! It's
It was
here's
actually really funny. Someone called you out. It was like right on point.
No.
I honestly thought it was
If you agree,
astronomy.
don't be shamed into thinking otherwise, man. If you agree, just do it, man.
No.
Be
I
a
have
man
done.
and
I have done it.
Astrology
But-
accurately explains how some people get into office.
Yes, Trump lost the election specifically because the whatever fucking planet aligned with
Because
the other
something
star.
got into the water, apparently.
Amazing.
Charge about social
cannot
security.
be moral
That's a-
without being religious. That's so
Genuine. Wait, did you? Oh, I don't know about that. Some people naturally unlucky. Strongly agree. I'm fucking unlucky.
yeah, fucking clown.
Living proof.
Luck is a math thing, right? So we can't just like assign like luck to an individual like inherently and just say that they're like always like naturally unlucky or whatever, right? Or that they have some
No,
natural
that's the
unluckiness to them.
reality,
No,
You can
naturally
empirically
unlucky.
control these variables. If they live in like a country or whatever that like makes it like harder for them to eat every night or whatever, that doesn't mean that they're like necessarily like individually unlucky.
To be honest, like if
Naturally
you're born
unlucky
in
is-
not Central Europe, America, or like Japan or something, then you're already like super unlucky. I feel like.
Fair enough.
I don't know how what the word is meaning. Does the word mean like the ooh woo lucky unlucky, or does it mean like actual math unlucky? You know, because we could say like that, like of course someone born in like a third world country is technically unlucky, right? But I wouldn't say that just dooms that person to be an unlucky person. You know?
No. That's,
Right.
yeah, of course not. But I mean, the thing is that I guess you're talking about the normal like understanding of it. Like you read it the first time, and this is what you're understanding of it. It's a stupid question in general. But,
True.
but I mean,
Mm-hmm.
else it doesn't make sense. Then you can talk about what is unlucky. Does unlucky even exist? Blah 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 blah.
Right.
What goes on in a private bedroom between consenting adults is no business of the state. What if it's
Yeah.
a
No
child?
one can feel naturally homosexual.
Consenting.
This
Consenting.
is something.
Yeah, consenting is
Okay.
important there. You have to remove children automatically because children can't consent.
Yeah.
What
And
about those
and
cases
adults.
like
Oh, and
that
adults,
guy
yeah,
in
also
Germany
true.
who wanted someone else to eat him alive?
Wait a second. No one can feel naturally
Because that is
homosexual.
technically murder.
That is murder, yeah. And cannibalism.
I mean, he's
No,
consenting though.
No one can feel naturally homosexual.
Okay, I'm
Why are you
sorry.
king shaming? Why are you king shaming? Huh?
Because you're
Start-
fucking weirdo, buddy.
Start
What
from
do
the
you
top,
mean?
we're going to teach you something.
Hey,
Yeah, animosity.
I just want to
Woo!
be able to eat people. Okay, why is it such a big deal?
Actually, that happened in Germany, by the way.
That's
What
why
the
I brought it
fuck?
up. Rammstein made a song about it, and that's the only reason I know about it.
Oh yeah.
All right,
He
let's
also
okay,
streamed
okay.
it, by the way.
openness and sex. Strongly agree. Strongly agree. That one for me.
Yeah, I agree.
What? Why?
With these days, openness and sex.
Uh,
What does it mean by sex?
Sex has been simplified to lust, and it's
Okay.
not a legitimate, intimate relationship.
What?
You're right.
But
Sex
why
is
wouldn't
not
you
a
be open
legitimate
about it? I don't
relationship.
understand this.
No, I think that the package comes. Sex should come as a package, personally, but maybe that's just my incel vibes. I don't know.
I
Oh
agree.
no.
I could
So
see-
a relationship is very, very similar to, like, just a regular relationship has a lot of similarities to a sexual relationship with somebody. All the things that make it a positive relationship tend to be the same. So communication is a really, really important thing in that. Openness would obviously be, like, implied by communication, right? The more communication you have, the better your sex will probably be, right? If I'm into some, like, weird ass fucking kink, but I don't want to be open about it because I feel like I'm going to be condemned for it or whatever, and then I just don't talk about it or whatever, then, like, I might have actually had a way better sexual experience with this person because maybe they actually would have been down with that kind of thing, right? And maybe they wouldn't, and maybe I would be avoiding a sexual, like, experience that might have been displeasant too by, like, just being open. Just it pretty much just leads to a lot of positive outcomes.
One second. Can you scroll up?
Fair enough.
Yeah, go back to the top of the page.
Dota 2.
Go
Sure.
back to the top of the page. I know that it's saying, like, and lastly, look at sex, but it sounds like it's just been really desperate to get to this part.
Sex outside of marriage is usually immoral. What the fuck?
I mean, marriage is like this bond between you and another person, and if
I don't
you
know.
betray that bond, I think that's immoral.
You're talking about
Okay,
cheating?
like, no. But
Sex
this
outside
doesn't mean
marriage.
that you're
I think,
already
yeah,
married.
I think I think it's just, or it could just be like asking, like, just sex in general. Like, do you think that you need to be married to have sex?
That's what I think it's saying.
Oh, really? I
Yeah,
thought it was
exactly.
cheating on people.
Hmm.
Oh, no.
No, it's a
No, no, no.
religious
Sex
meme,
outside
son.
marriage.
Oh,
Premarital
okay.
sex.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Well,
Hmm.
I.
No, dude. If you want to strongly agree, dude, go for it, man.
You naturally feel like it doesn't matter what sexuality. Is it a natural?
No, but-
Forgive me, Father, for I have
But I feel like that question shouldn't have a discussion. That question is completely personal to a person. So,
I don't
you-
understand
like,
this question,
it's
No, I feel I don't strongly disagree.
Why?
Because I think marriage is the usual, the logical step to
I
take.
think it's a trap, but
Marriage is like
mar-
a capitalist, like, concept.
I feel like the usually is throwing a wrench in it.
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
I don't agree. I think it's a cultural nice bond that people make to each other. Of course, they don't have to.
So
But
do you think
I
that
think
that bond existed before we came up with the idea of marriage?
I think maybe for some people it might have.
Yeah.
Very likely, right? I
mean-
don't see, like, a functional difference between that kind of bond before marriage
I
existed
mean,
and after. Now we've just, like, maybe thrown a label on it, but also marriage is
Yeah,
largely a legal act too and stuff, right? It's just it's messy in my
Yeah,
opinion.
for sure. Yeah, for sure.
I think it's unnecessary.
I mean, it depends on how you look at
The
it.
celebration, I think, is awesome though. Like the celebration of marriage,
Yeah.
having
Yeah.
gatherings and stuff, sweet. It's just a lot of like the other baggage that comes with it, because generally when we're talking about marriage, we're talking about a very like specific box.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I think again, this question shouldn't have a discussion because it's all based on your own independent morals.
True.
It's whatever you think.
it's
Wait, do you
basically
think
it's
independent
basically
morals shouldn't be discussed?
No,
outside
like
of
you can
marriage,
discuss the philosophical principles that underlie them, but a question like this, which is based on the philosophical principles, that's up to you to decide. It's not for anyone else to tell you what it is.
I mean, nothing of this is for anyone else to tell you what it is, but I think everything can be discussed equally.
Sure.
Sure.
But,
Yeah.
no, I
decide.
don't really have any arguments for this, but I just feel that that feels. I think marriage is on the logical next in some kind of form. It doesn't have to be legal, but just the act of promising each other to stay faithful and whatever. It don't have to be Christian.
Yeah,
Christian
like
act,
dedication
or
to your partner or whatever.
Yeah, basically that.
Celebration of
I
your
would
life.
actually sit on the same fence as you are. Yeah, so fair enough.
I would say that's a logic step to the next level.
Yeah.
Once
Gucci,
people feel
alright. Let's see you become an alt-right fucking
neo-Nazi.
Hell yeah.
You gotta scroll for a bit.
Oh, we see Stalin, Mao.
Keep scrolling. Keep scrolling.
That's
No,
not
it does it for everyone. Keep scrolling. Go
So
down,
I'm
go down.
at.
It's giving him an
No, no,
understanding.
No. Go down. Go down.
Oh.
Keep going down.
Need to go down.
Keep going. Keep going.
I love how they just have like the extreme examples.
This is weird, right? Like
This is what I like
every
to
one of
see.
us is still super left and like kind of libertarian. It's weird.
No, but I think that's this just boils down to a simple number. That's really not working.
You know what my results are?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
It's minus 6.5, minus 6.6.
Makes sense.
Oh my god, fucking call me, dude. Call me.
Amazing.
No, just,
The
I
radical
don't know.
left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Antifa, right here.
Hell yeah. Antifa
In
terrorists.
front of your house with a mask and a Molotov cocktail.
At least you're wearing a mask.
Oh, yeah. No, but I think this
Nice.
kind of accurately describes me as an US person,
Cool.
Most
but I think I would be rather like here in Sweden,
You prefer
in Swedish terms.
Yeah. I would be pretty centered in Germany.
Yeah, I guess so.
I think I'd be far, like, either far left or far right in Malaysia. I don't know which one it is. It's so weird.
I tend to try and find and like view things more from a global perspective, because that's most important to the the positive things that I want to see happen in the world. It requires like a global movement in that direction. And so I don't think that I would differ much between like if I was answering this based on Canada or not. Mostly also I'm very like anti-nationalist too, so I don't really give a fuck about like Canada in the grand scheme of things or whatever, if that makes sense. It's more about humans to me in particular, so.
Cool.
This is awesome. Oh, fuck me. It's
So
like
how
six-
many people in your stream are disagreeing with you right now?
Sorry, what?
How many people in your stream are disagreeing with you
Makes
right
sense,
now?
13 Army.
How many?
No one actually. There's 3 people in here.
Lame.
I'm in the nerd. Yeah.
How many people are in your stream, Hanger?
I don't stream anymore, dude.
Hanger stream had like 15 viewers and 14 of those were in the Discord.
Very nice.
Screaming like apes.
The classic.
That was funny.
Well, cool. I guess that kind of sums up today.
Yeah, that was sweet.
That was
stuff.
really nice, actually.
Thanks for having us,
But-
dude.
Oh no, thanks.
Thanks for
coming.
having us.
Yeah, good.
Thanks for coming.
It was fun.
You're all
That was
welcome.
fun.
Hell yeah. No, good discussion.
I guess Yeah, really.
And it all started with the gender.
Yeah.
With the gender.
stuff.
Let me I think I missed that part.
Yeah, we were
So did I.
on one stream. We were getting roasted,
Amazing.
or trying to be roasted at
But
least.
it's so hard to talk to those people, right?
Were you talking to
I feel
right wingers or?
No,
No.
like the gender people. Like
Yeah, basically
LGBTQ.
authoritarian gender.
Oh, you're talking about like
Gender
gender
neutral.
abolitionists or?
I think he means
I'm
gender
familiar
neutral
with those
people.
terms.
Yeah, basically.
Oh, NBs?
Like the pronoun thing.
Yeah, gender neutrals.
He means the people that you would find on Twitter.
Oh, okay. Well, what was the issue particularly? What were they angry about?
It's the way they kind of phrase their agenda, I guess.
Yeah, basically, I'm right, you're wrong, and you're a fucking cunt for not having the same
you're a
views
little
as
bit
I.
stupid, but since I'm a decent human being, I'm like happy to explain to you, since you're a little bit stupid, that
Yeah.
educate
Oh.
you in the right mindset.
I know, but
From my
but that's a
limited interaction with them, I disagree with that as well.
characterization. Yeah.
I'd find that from seeing a lot of them, it's a case of like, okay, I'm clearly uneducated about this. Could you educate me? And
Yeah, this
a
is
lot of
what
them
I
are
tried.
usually quite not happy to do so. They'll tell you no, go and read like a textbook or some shit.
Yeah,
this is
basically.
how it
Well, it
started,
depends. If you're
basically.
If you're talking
I'm
to someone who's
trying to
part of that
educate
minority
myself.
and asking them to educate you, it can be really exhausting for those people because they're like constantly being asked to like explain why they're valid and stuff like that or whatever. If you're asked like day
Yeah,
after
sure.
day after day after, you know, like I can understand the resentment when they're asked on the spot. It might feel a bit like brash right off the bat, and you might feel like a personal like, oh, sorry kind of thing. But
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, if
for
that
sure.
makes
But
sense.
not
Sure.
while,
It might
But
Yeah,
then,
but
but then you don't have the right to
that's why-
proselytize beliefs.
no,
You
not
don't
while
have to-
streaming on Twitch politics.
It's just a weird
that's not-
contrast in asking someone to educate themselves being like a typically virtuous thing. and
Yeah,
then
I get
being
it. I
asked
get
to
that
help
it's like
them
not.
is-
Yeah.
no.
It's not necessarily
Yeah,
like
no,
optically pleasing, but
But I mean,
No, no,
if,
I mean,
if you're on Twitch politics, I think you you can't have that. That's not a reason to get offended or
Yeah.
just
I
blow
feel
them
like
off.
if you're on Twitch doing politics, you've probably fallen down a staircase at some point in your life.
I think that if you enter a discussion with someone and try to proselytize your views, you do not have the right to tell them to search it up themselves if they don't understand. Otherwise, you just don't enter the discussion at all.
Yeah, I mean, if the conversation came about in that way or whatever, I guess, yeah. It depends on like how the conversation started, I guess. If you're coming in and
The
asking like a
conversation
minority,
started that way. It was basically like some people coming into the chat.
Yeah.
And being like, "Oh, you're stupid," blah blah blah. You know, like the usual thing of people that are against it, like super hard. And then it was me like actually asking, "Yeah, but what is the point of that? Like, just tell me, I don't understand." Right?
well, what were
And
you
then
guys trying to
they-
understand?
Well, yeah,
like,
but you also don't really understand being gay, paper, as we've established.
No, that's not the point. The point is
That's a different point. Sorry.
what?
For what it's
Like-
worth, Paper, you
wait,
tried to get me to say
No, it was a scaly thing. My bad.
Yeah, I mean that is actually something I don't understand. But
Yeah, I was.
It's
So
a
what's-
different
mistaken the
part.
two.
what's the gender thing that like was being conversed that they had such issue with?
No. It was like, like I think she was like not. She didn't want to be addressed as a she, more like a they. And I didn't
They, them?
understand because like as far as I learned English, they is like referred to multiple people, right?
Okay, so you is English your first language? I'm assuming not, right?
No, we won.
So do you guys know Hassan Piker?
No.
No. So he's a left-wing, I guess, political figure. He does streaming on Twitch. I think he's like their #1 streamer. He's conversed about this before. English was not his first language, I believe, either. And so he had to, when he came to the U.S., he had to learn English, essentially, and how gender works. And the way he explained it was essentially that the way it's kind of taught in a broader sense is that, like, this equals male, this equals female, and... that's kind of like that. And then he did more learning essentially and realized that the way that we're kind of like culturally like taught these things, not through necessarily education, but just culturally like incentivized to understand these things, seems to actually be incorrect. And so he had to like unlearn it. And so like it seems like he was describing that it just seems like it's going to be harder for people like, because even English people like already get it wrong a lot of times, so it could be even harder for somebody else to like try and understand like these concepts because it's just so fucking convoluted.
Like, oh no, go ahead, sorry.
But what I don't get, like for me as a German, right?
Yeah.
We don't have a difference between gender and sex, right? Like,
yeah,
we
that's
have
what he
the
was
same
saying.
word for
Culturally,
both.
it's yeah. Mm-hmm.
But what is inaccurate with that? Like, where's the like? Is there an actual scientific proof thing or whatever that like there are different genders, whatever
Yeah.
gender is?
I could explain it to you.
Yeah,
It's pretty
Yeah,
pretty
do it.
straightforward. So essentially, gender. How do you prove what X and Y is or whatever kind of like what concept and what like, because there's going to be like, in order to define something, you have to be able to usually point to certain traits or whatever and be like, okay, if this animal
Yep.
here has pointy ears and it's X weight and it looks at this shape or whatever and it's got 4 paws whatever and a tail, it's probably a cat or whatever, right? Like same thing. We can use this to define lots of things. So gender specifically, how do we define gender? How do you define somebody as a man? Try and think about so we're talking about gender specifically. Try and think about things that you can point to that will definitely tell you every single time that this person is a man.
Dick.
Yeah, penis, for sure. Or
Okay.
you're talking gender, not sex.
So, when you meet some person on the street and they come up to you, and this is how we do things in day-to-day life anyways, right? Can you see his penis?
No,
No.
but you
So-
can. Okay.
I can only see his penis.
you
It's frightening.
No,
You- can't
you can't
necessarily
see penis, so
determine
what do you
gender
see?
based on genitalia because it's not available for you to inspect every single time, right? That's just not how we
Yeah,
tend to
like-
act in society.
Facial, like the way the face is shaped, like beard and stuff.
Sure.
Like the body structure and stuff.
Do you think it's
Also, like-
possible for people we would consider to be women to have facial hair as well?
Yeah, sure.
Not to
there
that
is.
extent, no.
But some
yeah,
guy. Okay,
sure.
how about this one? I, for example, do not have a lot of facial hair. There's lots of men. I think in Asian countries too, it tends to be more common where they can't really grow as much of a beard as say like a burly white man or whatever, right? Would we start to consider these people to be women then?
No, maybe like it's not the only thing, right?
I get your
It's an
point.
amalgamation of things. It tends to be
It's a
right,
lot
but
of
it's never
stuff.
specific things, right? Gender is really, really complex. It's not exactly as much of A plus B plus C equals D. That's kind of the whole point.
Really, what my opinion was boils down to, it's basically you're making a problem where there isn't really isn't one. I mean, if a child walks up to, I mean, yourself, you could determine from basically 3 years age, is that a woman and or a man?
Sure.
Sure, there.
Based on
sure,
what
there is-
what
Looks.
like characteristics? What looks? Though?
What?
What do you mean by that?
I mean, it just basically boils down to, do you know? You know what I mean? Oh fuck.
No, that's why I'm asking you to specify. Like, are you talking about clothes? Are you talking about like their hair
Yeah,
length
sure.
and stuff like that? Okay, so those are cultural things, right?
Please
Yeah.
elaborate, Child Inspector General.
So men can have like long hair, right? Men could like
Yeah.
you could throw a guy technically like what you would consider to be a guy in a dress. Does that now make him a woman just because you could visually inspect him and he kind of looks like a? Do you know what I'm saying? It just doesn't
Yeah,
seem
but-
to really work that way. We
That's
wouldn't
more
start
than
considering that
inspecting.
person to be a woman just because they look like a woman. That's actually called gender expression, which is like how you express yourself or your gender, specifically visually.
Yeah, for
Shouldn't
sure.
it be called sex
You're-
expression then?
No, sex
Sex
express. So
expression.
sex is a little bit different. Sex is sex is complex. I could get into sex, but it's technically
sex is the biological.
yeah,
so-
sex is
so
the
sex is
biological
the
component.
easy
Yes. So the difference between gender and sex is that sex is generally biologically like aligned more, and then gender is socially constructed. There's biological elements that play a role in your gender, but they do not like decide your gender or how gender. Because do you know what a social construct is?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So it kind of means that it can be like loosely like it's a it's our collective understanding of how something works that defines it essentially and
Yeah,
creates it
exactly.
as a construct. So we can pretty
My idea
easily
was
identify
basically-
that, like, if you have a penis, then you would be considered male. Usually, like, you would be considered what's the word? Sex gets really complex. I'm not super brushed up on the terms, but there's multiple different like ways that you can be male. You could be hormonally male. You could be chromosomally male. You could appear male. Like, it gets really, really complex, and that's just sex too. Like, we were talking about gender, and now we're talking about sex. This shit's crazy complex. I know that it seems
What is the
overly
difference
complicated,
between-
but the
what is
reason.
difference
Disagree
between
about
like one male
but-
and the other male?
What was that? Sorry.
Well, that paper, for example, the why would someone get a sex change? Is it, why
Generally,
would someone get a sex change? Sorry,
people
go
get
on,
sex
yeah.
changes because of having like body dysphoria or whatever. Like, they feel so like unwell in their
Sure,
current
sure.
body that they have like mental issues. Like, it causes them pain and harms them.
Yeah, but
Exactly,
like,
and-
if you would live in Germany, then you would like basically if you would talk about this and describe yourself, then you would say like I was born as a boy, but I'm just I transitioned into a woman, or something like
Yeah,
that.
but what are the underlying reasons for that paper, right? Okay, for example,
Yeah,
I had a
fuck, I
friend
know.
who had body dysmorphia,
Yeah.
and she, like, when she was growing up, she had a very large offset of I forget what makes someone like hormonally female. The thingy that makes them female.
Estrogen.
There's more estrogen. Thank you. They would have more estrogen than they would have testosterone, and so parts of them would end up looking more female. They would feel more female, and so in that sense, prior to even the transition stage, they were basically female,
Yeah, hormonally
Right?
female. Yeah.
hormonally female, exactly, and that's the difference, right? Paper. That's
But
the
I'm not really arguing anything about that. The thing was
Okay.
that 99% of people can be determined, or let's say 95% of the people can be determined by looks. Sure, it's a cultural and society,
That's not really
basically.
true, though.
but isn't it?
So,
I could
yeah, like,
with
what
95% certainty, if I send you a picture of me, you could determine if I'm a male or female.
Sure,
Yes.
but like individual, like, so a collective, like
sure.
attributes or like features and stuff, we can generalize that this person, we can make an assumption that this person is probably X, Y, or Z, but it's not always true. You could have a
No,
really,
exactly.
really like skinny girl who has like no breast essentially and has a short haircut, and that's going to look a lot like a male, right? And so you would technically be incorrect in assuming that that girl is male, right? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not accurate enough. This is why it's a social construct. The way that we determine gender is through very, very like arbitrary lines that are drawn essentially, and that's kind of like
I agree with that. Yeah.
But to be honest, out of experience, right? Like I'm just talking out of experience.
Yeah.
I don't think I have ever, like in person, I've ever met a person where I would say that it's not a female and it's actually not a female.
I
Yeah,
have met
that's
many.
basically,
yeah, I've
that's
met many
basically
people like that.
my conclusion as well.
Do you guys know what
course,
anecdotal
but-
evidence is?
No.
No? It's a really, really important thing here. So an anecdotal, like, or a personal anecdote or anecdotal evidence. Here, I'll just define it
Oh yeah,
specifically.
no, I know what you mean. Yeah, true. But I mean, like in the end, still.
Could you
I
just
don't know.
explain it?
Anecdotal evidence is evidence from anecdotes, evidence collected in a casual or informal manner and relying heavily or entirely on personal testimony. It's generally not considered to be sufficient evidence to like back like
It's
an
experience,
opinion or
right?
something. Yeah, exactly. It can be.
Sure.
It can. Anecdotal evidence tends to be like in contrast to the actual like large body of empirical
Scientific.
evidence. Yeah, scientific
yeah,
evidence. Yeah. We should try and avoid basing like strong opinions on anecdotal evidence, essentially, and
But
we
is
shouldn't use it to
strong
defend things.
opinion? I don't even think that this whole thing
No,
is so
yeah,
important.
that's
the point.
that was the main argue that we're making
Okay, yeah.
a problem where I mean I understand that the basics of it.
Yeah.
That if you're a trans woman or man,
Talking about trans though, but sure.
yeah, trans, sure, that you have a hard time categorizing yourself.
Yeah.
And but like I feel like there in just recent years, everybody has been such decided, especially the part of the left wing has been.
Well,
It's,
okay, if I could butt in here, just to add, like, sort of add something to the pot, right?
Mhm.
I think that both sides want to pretend that their own perspective is right, based on whatever, however that they perceive the world has gone so far. Now, basically, people who are they believe in the spectrum of gender. They believe in gender fluidity. Those people want to pursue an agenda that kind of tears down the current way that we see gender being applied as a blanket of male or female, a binary, like a binary blanket, right? Because most of the way that we categorize the way the masculinity and femininity, we pretend it's going to be based on whether you have a penis or a vagina, but that's just simply not true. You look at the way that they dress, you look at the way that they act, you look at the way that they stand, the way that they talk.
Yep.
And those things would be the things that kind of determine whether or not someone acts more masculine or feminine prior to you deciding whether or not they're male or female. Before you even see
masculinity or femininity doesn't have anything to do with, like, I don't know, like, it doesn't matter how masculine you are, you're still like either a female or a male.
Well, that's
which is exactly the point, right? That's exactly the point. So you cannot gender in that sense, which is something that we're labeling here as masculinity or femininity on a spectrum. That would be gender. The other side of you guys wants to say instead that all gender is penis or vagina, and that statement, that's it. And whoever is right kind of just depends on whatever fence you sit on.
It tends to be that, like, the way that we, like, in real world, like, apply our understanding of gender just seems to be an actual spectrum, regardless of if some people, like, want to buy into that idea or not. People just would rather, like, people in actuality just tend to fall on the spectrum between male and female, or I guess it would be technically like man and woman, because gender is
I mean it depends on where you are, right? Obviously, like, if you go to
cultural
the
influences are huge.
That gender is a thing, then they probably look at you and laugh at you, and if you say that again, then they pull their knife or something.
No, yeah, for sure. I mean,
no.
What, of course.
But of course.
But of course.
Yeah, dude, like, you don't know some people from there. We actually have a lot of those people in Germany. Like, I try to explain to them what a gender is. They look at you strangely, and then they tell you to fuck off. If you don't fuck off and keep doing that, then they just, like, punch you very hard.
Well, that's a bit of a strange response, yeah.
It is, but I mean, it's reality.
True. Yeah, the point I guess that I'm getting at is just that, like, gender is definitely more complex. It's definitely, like, we can't really just, like, make a determinable box as to, like, how gender works. And sex actually is very similar too. Sex is actually more of a spectrum. We just tend to, like, I don't know if it's like a simplicity thing or whatever, but we just tend to assign, like, hard definitions to things. But, like, for example, for sex is also a spectrum. You could think about it very simply like this. Of course, there's people who are hermaphrodites, which would probably land somewhere in the middle. But also, technically, like, sex is biological, right? So we would consider any biological aspects of your, like, body to be, like, associated maybe with, like, a sex. So my lack of facial hair makes me a little bit closer to the female side, right? Because we attribute, like, lack of facial hair more to females, right?
Hey, okay.
The way I always saw it is
I just want to show you guys something, and it's basically the source of my ideas or my opinions.
Sure.
Could you look at the stream?
Yeah, I'm on the stream.
Yeah, it's Outsiders.
Yeah.
My name is Caroline. I'm Tony.
Uh-huh.
So basically, this is this is what I'm talking about.
Okay, I get what you're saying. So
It's an extreme case, and
Right.
it's not, but you get
it's
the idea. I
technically
think
a
this-
straw man argument. You're technically like misrepresent. If this is how you view gender, it's a misrepresentation of what gender is, because we don't use the words like female or male as like they. If a horse is a horse and we define a horse by XYZ whatever, like a human can never be a horse by those definitions, right? And people who people
Or a
who
lizard.
present as other genders aren't attempting to present as other things that are already defined like very specifically in that way. Like you'll never see somebody actually presenting as as a fire truck or whatever, or a helicopter as their gender,
yeah,
you know? Like that people
Petty.
it's that's like it's just like a right-wing like meme essentially.
Yeah, and this is basically I feel
mean,
sorry for
but-
these
but to
guys,
be fair,
or
for some people
for
it's not a
all
meme,
the
right?
whole movement, because I think these people are like creating. Yeah,
But I think actually things like this have very little to do with gender and quite a lot to do with extreme representations of sexuality. That's because were oppressed by traditionalist values.
Yeah, it's like a furry thing, right? More of a
But I
furry
have a
thing than a
question.
gender thing.
I have a question. How far can you go before it's actually insanity?
So with gender specifically,
No, like with in general, with all those identification things.
It's essentially like I don't know how we would define insanity. Essentially, if somebody operates in a way in which is different than another person, say their brain works in a different way, and we can measure that it's different or whatever, and determine it or whatever, and we can say that like, oh, it seems like we can like multiple people seem to be this way, then we can assign like a definition to that thing to describe it as different from other things, and like and it's just language, right? And so to me, gender is very much just that. Except we have like society and cultural norms that have been like impressioned on us that kind of like don't tell us the full truth about gender. It really simplifies gender for most people. That's why most people think boy has penis, girl has vagina, and that's the end of it. But it's kind of like, I like to view it as like science more. I don't completely understand a lot of like microbiology and stuff, but it doesn't necessarily mean that like that it's not real or that it's like unnecessarily complex or whatever, right? Does that make sense?
I mean,
Yeah,
this
sure.
kind of makes sense in its like as a closed system, right? Like if you tell me that it's true, then the concept of it makes sense in itself, right?
Right,
That's
right.
what I mean.
Okay, yeah.
Like
I'm
my
just-
problem with it is always that, like the way I saw it is like you're a human, right?
Yep.
And some humans are more masculine or more feminine,
Yes.
but then your gender or whatever like you want to call it, because in Germany we only have one word, so I always call like the sex the gender, because like for us it's only gender, right?
Yeah, it's culturally influenced. Yeah, for sure. It's
Yeah.
different in Germany because you guys don't have the separate words for it than it would be in,
Yeah.
say, America.
Yeah,
okay.
exactly.
Yeah.
So like I always called like if you're a male, then you can still be a pretty feminine male.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I'm literally
okay.
wearing makeup right now.
Yeah. I mean.
Well,
you
yeah,
can do that.
paper, but no biological male would ever say I'm a female and that's that.
What? Of course, people say that all the time here.
No. You're misunderstanding. No biological male would deny that they're biological male. Is what I'm
Yes.
saying. No biological female would deny that they're biological female. One, however, would, however, say that my gender is going to be something despite my biological fact.
Yeah.
I mean, not in Germany because we don't have a word for it.
Right.
Well, sure.
It could
but
still
that's
people could
Germany,
still
right?
exist in that frame. You just might not have a word to describe it, and that might influence your culture's
Jesus
view
Christ,
on
are we
it, which is
still
why
on
you
gender?
think what you think.
Maybe.
I just think like let's take for a horse for an example. Like how far can you go before I think you are weird and have the right to think that? I think this is weird. I don't.
Generally, we tend to
Of
just
course.
think like things that we don't understand. We just tend to think as weird, right? Doesn't necessarily make it
for
bad.
sure. Yep. Yeah, for sure. I'm not saying it's bad.
Yeah, I know you aren't. Just
But my opinion of thinking that's weird can't really be how I don't think it can be find offensive to me thinking that idea, and especially when legislation, like in Canada, it's illegal to misgender someone.
Okay, so the whole like Bill C-60, whatever the fuck it was, that Jordan Peterson made a big stink about. That was like a huge misrepresentation of the of like what the trans rights that were like given essentially from that like even do. It was just correcting because there was no like clarification for like trans rights to put them on the same level as like, let's say, other minority groups like black people for racial discrimination to get a job and stuff. It's all legal stuff to protect trans people from like being able to be rejected from jobs and stuff like that for being trans. Jordan Peterson just made a big stink about it because he's like crazy right-wing lunatic.
No, I think he's quite good actually.
Okay, so he's smart at some things that he talks about. But when he starts to like open his mouth about like social topics and stuff, he has no idea what he's talking about.
I think that Jordan. Have you seen the interview with this is one subject of many.
With the lady?
I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen the lady interview.
Yeah. And the thing I like with him is that he discusses science, a lot of science. For sure, he has his opinions about it as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, you get what I mean.
Yeah, I encourage you, if you do enjoy like what Jordan Peterson talks about. I think Destiny has a pretty great perspective on Jordan Peterson, and it's actually like a pretty like rational approach to Jordan Peterson. He breaks down essentially like Jordan Peterson and where Jordan Peterson's right and where he's wrong and stuff like that, and why, and it gives you a really good understanding of like why Jordan Peterson's views on certain things just tend to be uninformed essentially.
But isn't Jordan Peterson a little bit insane as well?
Yes.
I don't know.
When he's talking about self-help things, he can be really smart. That was pretty much Destiny's take, and I think that's true. Like he that's his field of expertise, right? But when he starts to talk about like trans people and stuff, he's just actually just wrong on a lot of these things.
But Destiny is also like very weird about some things.
Oh, for sure, yeah. But I think like we can look at that perspective individually, listen to what Destiny's saying, and then evaluate if it feels like it's accurate or not. And I think that Destiny words it in the best way that like is easily understandable to people. That's why I recommend that specifically. It's very easily digestible.
I think
what do you think about Hassan?
What do I think about Hassan? I think that I was introduced to like left-wing politics actually to some degree by Hassan back in like probably 2010 or something like that, by like watching him debunk what is it, Tommy Lauren, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, Tommy Lauren.
I think that he's like a very positive impact on the left in general. He's normalized a lot of leftist ideology.
Does he? Do you think so?
I think he's a net positive. Now, how much negative does he contribute to? I'm not like, this is like a really like hard thing to exactly draw lines on. Of course, he's had stumbles and stuff, right? But overall, like he has so I would consider Hassan to be much less like radical feeling than most other lefties, and I would like consider that to be a net positive because in order to move people left, we need to move so you look at the general population and their ideologies and stuff, and generally they're mostly liberals. If we want to move the world left, we have to convince mostly the liberals to move left, right? I think that he's really effective at moving a lot of like people who are like more centralized because he feels less radical, and he actually does it in like a really fun approach essentially.
But isn't like the way he debates stuff?
Yeah.
Is to me it's super cringe.
Yeah, I mean I think so. Yeah, his debate stuff is so I guess maybe the debate stuff isn't as good from him, but the majority of his content now is like focused away from debates because he had a huge falling out with Destiny and stuff, and he just he kind of attributes like debates negatively to like Destiny now. So most of his content now is just like him just chilling, watching videos, replying to the videos, explaining to people why some ideas are bad or good or whatever, and like that portion of his content I think is like a net positive. But I think you're right about the debate thing. I agree.
But what is like another thing that I like that came to me as an impression, right?
Yep.
Every time I'm like watching specifically like NA stuff, right? This is also why I'm pretty surprised with YouTube, because usually like when I talk to people from North America, right, like they don't let someone talk, right? That's like one thing, like a big stereotype I have of American people, right? In general.
Right.
Like they just talk all the time and don't really let you talk. Then they don't really talk about the actual subject. It's more like a name calling, right? It's more like, oh, you have that opinion, then you're a liberal, and this means you're fucking like whatever communist,
Yeah.
and this is bad, and blah blah blah.
I mean, that's funny, Pete, but that's what I think about
this
you
is
as well.
usually my experience, even though like I don't live in North America, so my experience with the North American people is limited as well, right? Obviously, I mean, I'm not saying that everyone that's from Europe is like super like fucking Jesus, right?
No, for
They're
sure.
also like fucking idiots, but like there's a structural difference. I feel
Not just Jesus. Super fucking Jesus.
super Jesus.
No, for sure. I think that Americans
It's
think
like
that they're the center
10
of the
times
world,
stronger.
and I think that informs their worldview and how they even like approach like their opinions compared to other people's opinions to some degree. But you can find this in places more than just America, like you said. It's like I'm sure you could find Europeans that would be that way too. I think that it just depends on that person, how they view your opinion. If they view your opinion as harmful or engageable, if they think they can change your mind, maybe that's how it works. At least this is how I process it. So if I feel like I can change somebody's mind, I'm going to have a discussion with them, and I'm going to try really hard to be charitable to everything they say and like just have a real honest discussion, you know? But if I feel like I'm talking to like a right-wing lunatic who will never change their mind no matter what I do, like literally just they're unmovable, then it's more effective to me to like ridicule them and like have like more debate tactic-y kind of things against them, because then maybe I'll convince some of their audience to switch sides, and that's more based on like how power dynamics work in debates essentially. That's how I view that.
I don't know. Like I'm completely different in that regard. Like if I
Yeah.
talk to someone who actually has stupid opinions, then I'm enjoying the conversation even more because I
Okay.
think it's
Yeah,
actually
that's
hilarious.
true. That's true.
I see the
I
merit
can't-
in that, yeah.
Yeah,
Like-
I can't-
like-
I don't know.
Just to good an example, like I was talking to this actually on Twitch yesterday with an ultra like he was a communist, or he called himself a communist,
Okay.
and basically well, at one point we got into North Korea, and I said like, can you realize the problems in like,
Oh, no.
North Korea?
Tanky,
Uh,
no.
Yeah.
No.
And he's basically, their constitution even lets them let's grant them freedom of speech, and I'm like, dude, are you for real? But
Dude, they will
take a
unironically
look-
argue that it's a
Yeah.
fucking democracy in North Korea. They're actually
Yeah,
insane.
basically.
I don't fucking understand.
and they call it on CIA, like some debunking. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just CIA making showing that view.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it was
It's
crazy.
insane, my
And
dude.
that makes me like go like my endorphins goes skyrocketing. I'm like, what?
yeah. It sucks because
So-
like these people misrepresent the left so fucking hard that way, and then
Exactly,
I have to
yeah.
go out and argue with people who may like have been reasonable or reachable, but now they've been like turned off by it so hard that now they think like communism is fucking totalitarianism, and I'm like, just chill, please, just stop. Oh my.
Yeah.
I
But
get it though. You know
was-
what? I
it
don't want
was-
those people in power either though, because they're fucking authoritarian lunatics. So like.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was like I was having a conversation with an anarchist. He was like a true anarchist, and I was uneducated about anarchistic the society, and it was like when I think we have a discussion for an hour, and like it's hard to not agree with a true anarchistic society.
Yeah,
where
because you're
everybody,
talking about
yeah.
like theory, right? And like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
for
know how
free,
you argue
yeah.
with the principles that anarchism stands for, really.
Yeah.
I
exactly.
I have obviously incorporated principles of anarchism into like my opinion or my like ideal society or whatever too, right? So
Yeah,
for sure.
the problems come when you try to integrate, but let's not talk about that.
Yeah,
but,
I think we touched on that the other day or whatever too. So.
but like when you hear about anarchism, it's really my views were these punk kids that called for revolution on the streets,
Yeah, for sure. I feel you.
and that's
To burn
where,
shit down and
Yeah,
fucking no government, no rules, no everything. Yeah, yeah. It seems
Exactly,
extremist
yeah.
on the
T-shirts with a red A spray painted on it with a circle around it.
exactly.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
No, for
And
sure.
those people just doing a huge disservice to the whole community.
Yeah, it seems like
It's-
optically displeasing, I guess, for sure. Yeah.
But
as
this is
well
this
as
is But
right
isn't that the
right
problem
wingers.
inherently with communities like that, like political, like I don't know, like this is why I never like would call myself a left guy or a right guy or whatever. I'm my own guy because
You like to
I
change
think
hands, do you?
no, shut up.
Yeah.
I think like everyone else is a fucking idiot, so
I
I
said
don't
I
want to
want
be
to-
associated with them.
I do like to
I
use
said
words
I
to
wanted to
describe
do it
from
things,
the
and I think that like labels are useful, but for sure, like I do understand that there's negative connotation with like identifying with certain labels. So I broadly identify as a leftist because I don't think that like that one has been tainted as bad, and then I
Yeah.
mostly talk about my actual beliefs and try and avoid like the really hard like
Yeah.
defenses and stuff.
Yeah, I never called myself a leftist. Like in Sweden,
Yeah.
we have this the Left Party, basically rough translation.
Yeah.
And their youth organization literally says they want a communistic society.
Interesting.
Go.
Let's see it here, and they are huge in Sweden.
Are they in
We
power?
have a party that wants
Yeah,
to
they're in power.
like.
It's called Young Left. Let's see here. Oh. I don't know if you're watching the stream or...
Oh yeah, I'm watching it.
Yeah.
Always
Cool.
with the fucking red, hey? Oh, there's the hammer and sickle, baby. Yeah.
Yeah, so Young Left, our goal is a communistic society.
Okay.
Let's turn on...
As it should.
Could you... Do you know how you translate it? There you go. Perhaps? No. There we go. So, basically...
Oh. Interesting that they would just come out and say it. But you know what, too, though? Perspective is a huge thing. In
Yeah,
like
for sure.
Western societies, I would say, or maybe like by Western, I guess, I mean like literal like Western, as in like Canada and the U.S. or whatever. The word communist has been like tainted really hard. I don't know if it's been tainted like where you live. Does it feel like it has been?
Not really. We
not
have a
quite.
communist party.
Yeah, it doesn't
Not-
seem like you guys associate communism with like something inherently negative, right?
We had like...
I mean, to be fair, Kant was a German philosopher, so I like Kant Marx.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
part
No,
of our culture.
Down here, I don't think you could ever, like, even if it was correct or whatever, you could never optically have a party called the Communist Party and ever expect to get anywhere with it. Like, maybe in Canada, maybe one day we'll get there, but, like, especially in Alberta, no fucking way, dude. You're, like, signing your deathbed if you,
Yeah.
if you breathe the word communist.
So, and even the Social Democrats, like the leading biggest party, and our prime minister defended Swedish communists.
Yeah.
And they said like, I never understood that VPK, the left party communists, didn't stand up for the democracy, and those were basically Stalin supporters. The leader of the VPK went out in public and said that when the Berlin Wall fell, he cried.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
So
Actually,
and-
I mean, to be
and
fair,
the-
like what a lot of people misunderstand is that a lot
Yeah.
of people that lived in the DDR actually preferred the way the DDR handles the things.
yeah, like
Literally, like people in Germany today say that it was better living in the DDR than in like actual Western Germany.
Interesting.
yeah, and so this is why I don't call myself a lefty in Sweden. Or of course, this left in Sweden is generally
It's pretty left.
yeah, it's pretty left.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So I might be left in US terms, but not in Swedish terms.
It's really unfortunate because, like, yeah, everything is so far
Yeah.
to the right in the U.S. specifically that, like, center like positions are considered like left-wing extreme positions.
This is the thing, right? Like this is always what I thought was strange when I first like got into American politics, right?
Yeah.
Is that like I was like, dude, like that's not right wing, right? Because for me, like even parties in our parliament that are kind of like for us extremely right winged are
Yeah.
kind of like to the center. In
Yeah,
America,
right? You got like
Yeah,
liberals
yeah.
as your right wing.
Yeah.
It's fucking, I don't know. It's
I
insane.
feel it.
Yeah, that's the thing.
It's
Like,
also very confusing, right? As a European, if you look at that.
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
And then you express like normal ideas that everyone here is talking about and everyone think is normal, right? You say
yeah.
one of those things in an NA like politic chat, and
Yeah.
then people call you communist.
Oh yeah,
Like,
they're
I don't
fucking
know.
dumb, my dude. Oh my god.
I don't know.
yeah,
It's a
basically,
headache,
it's
dude.
just-
Yeah, it is. And then like the first time I did that, I made the mistake to say like, yeah, what is bad about communism? Like, there's nothing inherently bad, and I got banned.
Oh yeah, good. Oh, you got banned.
Of course.
Oh, they couldn't handle it.
Like-
Questioning authority,
But-
baby.
But to be fair, like there's one thing I need to say is that like I got banned in more leftist channels about
Yeah.
politics than in right-wing channels.
Yeah,
For saying
left.
whatever.
What is it called? Fucking leftist gatekeeping is much harder, or is much more like intense than right-wing gatekeeping. It's like purity testing. That's what it's called. So it's a really, really big problem with the left, where like in order to like move left and get the progressive changes that we want, a lot of left people think that like or they enforce like an absolutist like level of like what's it called? Like social standards that you have to have in order to be accepted into the left or whatever. It's definitely a huge problem that needs to be addressed. But
I don't know. I literally just said this guy is generalizing, right? And he
Yeah.
banned me for that.
this guy is generalizing.
Yeah, like this one YouTube, like Twitch guy. Like he was talking about what was it? I think it was about the like what was the name of the black guy who got like basically like put on the ground with a knee and stuff?
Yeah, his
Oh.
name does
You-
escape you, doesn't
Floyd?
it?
Yeah.
You mean George Floyd?
Yeah, that was a while
Yeah,
ago.
exactly.
It wasn't really relevant.
What do you mean? Like I'm not watching news. Not even German news.
I mean, I understand that that was wrong, but
I also
Oft-
get it, yeah.
but I mean, I understand the police views. I mean, if you looked on the dash cam or his body cam, it's quite hard. It's quite hard to. Well, you can see that he's probably on something, or he's quite yeah he's. You get what I mean.
Mhm.
I'm not defending it.
Oh,
I
the
mean,
drug thing?
I-
Yeah,
I-
the drugs had like nothing to do with him being dead though. It's the same thing as like me
Yeah,
like
yeah, no,
smoking
yeah.
weed and then getting in a car accident. Like clearly the car killed me.
Yeah,
know?
yeah. But I mean, just looking at the body camera, he was pretty hysteric, or what's it called? Name for it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
hysterical, sure.
He
Yeah,
basically
maybe.
Yeah,
Like, I mean, it's essentially it just boils down to like, should cops be able to like just kill people on the spot? No, not in a
Yeah,
democratic and
no.
free society. That person should be prosecuted and.
Yeah,
rented.
for sure. I'm not saying he was right.
Yeah. It's more just that it's
Uh,
kind of irrelevant, right? Like, what
Yep,
point are
exactly.
you like painting when you say things like that? You know, like if it's not relevant, then it seems like you're implying other things, and that might be why people might have issues with it or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I'm technically kind of a big pro. I'm not into anything about like defund the police. I'm quite opposite actually, but I think the demilitarization. I think
Sure, those are
people,
kind of different
uh,
things, but yeah, I mean, how do you understand defund the police as a concept? What does that mean to you?
basically give them less money.
Right, and do you think that's all
that's
that's?
big.
Do you think that's
No,
all that
no, for
happens
sure.
when we
No,
say
for sure.
defund the police?
No, for sure not. But that's my interpretation of it.
Okay.
Sure. I haven't read of it, so I can't really say.
Yeah, It's a really,
Like,
really. It's one of the examples of like an optically bad statement, where it sounds like pretty radical, right? But what it actually means is reallocate funding from the police to other services that would better address the issues in which police are expected to address. So instead of giving money to like police and overfunding them, which they are like crazy overfunded, I don't know if you ever looked at like how much funding like a city police district would get compared to like everything else that we give to that city, but it's insane. It's a massive proportion of it. So essentially just allocate some of that funding away from the police because they don't seem to be empirically effective at addressing the issues they're supposed to address, and then give it to like first aid responders and stuff to help with like mental health like checks and stuff. Phone those people instead of the police to check on those incidents, so on and such forth. Did that kind of make sense?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's
Would someone then not quite early on realise maybe we should change our slogan from defund the police to reallocate police funds?
I would wish that they would change it, but unfortunately it's caught hold and it's
like, well, we've printed the shirts for this one, so we're sticking to it.
Yeah, trying to get the mass population to switch after they keep in mind they grappled onto that statement when they were like very emotionally driven after just witnessing the deaths of these people and stuff live, or not live, but like on camera or whatever. It was just like an emotional reaction thing. After that takes hold, I'm not sure how we would ever change people's like language afterwards. It's unfortunate, but kind of the reality.
But do you guys think that guy was intentionally killing the guy?
Yes.
Because this is what I got banned for, because I said, like, I don't think this guy was intentionally killing the guy. I think I didn't, like, I said, like, I don't think that he was very, like, that he didn't really care for the well-being of Mayweather person.
Yeah.
But, like, he didn't,
George
he
Floyd,
wasn't, like, intentionally
George
killing
Floyd, not Floyd Mayweather, that's the boxer.
I'm not sure.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, clearly I'm not sure how we could ever like come to the conclusion that we think he literally just wanted to like kill him, unless we could like create like a framework where we could figure out that like, it seems like he can get away, or he seems like thinks he can get away with like killing people because he's a cop. In which case, then we can conclude that he thinks he'll get away with it, so he's like, going to do it. But otherwise, I think any rational human being wouldn't want to just like kill people because they probably understand that there's like consequences to that. If they won't get away with it.
Regarding defunding the police, I think my opinion about it is quite influenced by our current situation in Sweden.
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
Left an article where Sweden suffer from quite low rates of police. No one wants to work as a police, and police are leaving because of shitty payment and shitty working conditions.
Okay.
So basically, this boils down to my like bottom figure: 2 police officers of 100,000 inhabitants. So
for sure.
That's basically when I hear defund the police, I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, for sure. Because through your like framework or I guess your lens, like from your culture,
lens.
It doesn't make any sense for sure. Yeah, it's more. It's defund the police is definitely like a apply it to the U.S. I would say Canada too. We are similar enough. We have like a lot of the problems they have with like black violence from police in the U.S. We have like similar or equivalent problems with Indigenous people and police in Canada. For example, there's something called the Starlight Tours in Canada. This is something that happened where police in Saskatchewan used to take Indigenous people and when they would just be like homeless people or whatever, or teenagers and stuff, and they would put them in their car, drive out into the middle of like butt fucking nowhere out of the city or town, and then throw that Indigenous person off into the freezing cold, like winter climate, right, in Canada, minus 20 or whatever, 30, and they would literally die. Like they would strand them. It's completely fucked.
But is the police in, do they behave like the American police, or is there a difference?
That was kind of like my an example of extreme cases with like violence against Indigenous people in Canada from the police. That's kind of my like the picture I'm trying to paint, is that like we have like, so the U.S. has like violence against black people from the police. We have like similar things also against black people, but like also largely against Indigenous people in Canada.
Because I was in Canada once, right?
Yeah.
And like me and my father had a pretty big culture shock there with the police, right? Because we basically we landed there. Like we went to Montreal, and from Montreal to Vancouver, I think.
Yeah.
Right? And then in Montreal, when we wanted to change the plane, it was basically that they sold more tickets than they actually had places, right? Because it's normal, right?
Yeah, they're fucking dumb.
And then the thing got delayed, and my father was like screaming at the fucking airport at the police guy, or like at the woman at the like reception thing, right?
Yeah.
And she called the police guy, right?
Okay.
And my father didn't understand because he can't speak English, right?
Okay.
So, and then like the police guy came there and he was like, step away, blah 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 blah. My father kept screaming, and I was like, dude, I went to my father and I was like, this is not Germany, right? Like maybe take a step backwards, maybe like shut the fuck up. Like,
Yeah.
this guy seems pretty angry, right?
Unfortunately.
And he was like, no, this can't be. You know, and this was like, but he didn't get it, right?
Yeah.
Because like in Germany, if you're talking to police in Germany, you can literally tell them whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're almost like in some way, the police are like trained to better like deal with like these situations, and they don't like power trip as hard, right? I would associate that mostly with the like I don't know if you know much about your guys' police system, but it seems to me like this is mostly attributed in Canada due to our like low amount of training. To become a police officer in Canada, like it does differ a little bit from location to location, because for example, Edmonton's police service in the city I live in is its own, but then like rural areas, like small towns, will all be under the Royal Mounted Police. So each of them has their own training methods, but they're all very similar. I think it's like a maximum of 26 weeks of training to become a police officer, and that's it.
But that's what. Don't get me wrong, but I'm watching. Let's see. There's this YouTuber going around and filming public places in the US.
Yeah. But hold on.
Does
Sorry.
anyone know who I'm speaking of? Can't know. I don't know.
No. Paper, I don't know if I misread you, but I think you mentioned that Germany doesn't have that kind of police brutality.
But then again, if you watch videos of like U.S. police, right, you're getting fucking like this fucking scary.
Sure, but Germany has a really bad police brutality case against immigrants, right, as well as specifically Arab descent or Middle Eastern descent people inside the country. And the police interact really poorly with them in Germany.
No, okay, but my point was basically, well, when I see him going out, of course, taking into account he's white and older male.
Yeah.
But he literally stands, and if he doesn't think the police doing a good job, he says, "Fuck you, I won't talk to you. Get your supervisor, you fucking cunt," basically.
Right.
And because that is so heavily protected by the First Amendment.
Are you talking about the U.S.?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're white, you'll probably get away with that. Unfortunately, if you're black, not so much.
But yeah, I'm just trying to find a context though. Like, I don't really think that every police. Of course, there's bad police officers and good ones.
Yeah.
But surely a black male would, to a higher degree, get searched and get stopped. I'm not doubting that.
Yeah.
But I'm not buying it that they see a black man and, hey, let's go beat him down though.
Oh no! It's not like it's a planned thing. It's largely a cultural issue, and then some portion of it would probably be like the system itself and the structure of like police training and stuff. So like, it's definitely like it's what's the word? It's implicit, much more than explicit. Obviously, it's not like some like nefarious scheme. A lot of these things tend to be just like accidents. But. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the whole like BLM like movement, and the point of it is to address the underlying mechanisms in the system that end up like resulting in these things, because all the violence against black people and all of the mistreatments and stuff can all be like empirically measured, and it has been, and that's kind of like how they approach that essentially.
Yeah, but honestly, I would feel like of course, as a white male, but
Yep.
I think more safe with the U.S. police after watching these videos than I do with Swedish police. Because in U.S. I would feel like my constitutional rights are so heavily protected. Maybe it's just an.
That's likely, yeah, probably likely due to your upbringing and
for sure.
such, and then of course you're being white and stuff, right? For sure. I mean, as long as you can recognize it, then that's all that really matters, right? Is that like
I'm not sure if it's true, but like in Sweden, I'm scared shitless every time I get stopped, and that's pretty uncommon due to me having a soul of. No, because like basically me meeting police officers as a young child with when you're going to parties and they are coming there and kicking you out and you really don't know what you can say.
Negative interactions and stuff, for sure.
Yep, for sure. And like a friend of mine who talked back and they just put him in the car and drove him away.
Really?
Yeah. Basically talking back and like, hey, fuck you.
Just so you know,
Sounds like Swedish police is even more strict than German police.
No, I think this was a bad. It was New Year's Eve, actually.
Just so you guys know, like this would be considered like an anecdote, but I do have like my own anecdote as well. In Canada, I've seen lots of my white friends get like mistreated by police, especially like same thing, like growing up in high school. You know, they'd have their parties or whatever, and then the cops would come in. Like it'd be like on like a bush party or whatever, right? So you drive out to this little area, like plot of land or field or whatever, and then everyone's like underage drinking and stuff, and the cops would come in, and there was no negotiation or anything. Of course, illegal things are happening, right? But regardless, like there was no it didn't feel like there was any kind of civility coming from the police either, right? It didn't feel like it felt like an unnecessary or unreasonable amount of force is being exerted, essentially. So for sure.
And basically, my point is why I'm still a bit nervous today when getting stopped. I haven't been stopped. But I'm a gun owner, and in Sweden, the police actually they have the like. If you get into a fight or if you get arrested for or like I don't know what's if you go to jail because you're drunk, I don't know.
They take your gun away, hey?
I don't know what's the English term for it.
Seize?
Yeah, basically if you're too drunk in public, then you can take care of yourself.
Oh, it's just like drunk and disorderly.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
If basically they revoke all your gun rights and you won't get it back.
Yeah.
And as well as so that's why I want to talk back to the police in Sweden, because I don't know whenever they are gonna like, hey, fuck you, we're taking your guns, basically.
I would say probably that just being charged with like whatever issue that you had kind of thing would not be enough to take away your guns. They would have to prove it in court. So you could probably fight it in court if it was like incorrect or whatever, and hopefully you would win.
Like you can get a speeding ticket. If you get too many speeding tickets, you lose your guns in Sweden.
Okay, that seems a bit disconnected, but okay.
Yeah, that's basically the. So that's like, I don't know my rights as good. I don't feel my rights is that protected in Sweden.
Right.
Compared to the U.S.
Okay, that's fair.
I don't know if I'm idolizing it. Perhaps I will. I am. But
maybe you can idolize particular things. Just try not to idolize the entire thing.
yeah, sure. Yeah.
It's a bit of like a dystopian fucking nightmare in the U.S. the way they view a lot of their rights and stuff.
Yeah, but that you get my point, basically.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, for sure.
So,
I would definitely agree that like getting a couple like certain things that you can't really empirically point to those affecting your ability to be a responsible gun owner, like getting like a bunch of speeding tickets. How in the hell did we ever end up with like that being like a good metric for you being an irresponsible gun owner, or like being a potential irresponsible gun owner? These things should have to be like proven essentially if we're going to be like making policies about them.
And I'm down with like everybody should not have a gun. I mean,
same.
I truly think that it should be limited, but the right causes really.
Yeah. you're gonna have a hard time arguing that with like any American lefties or righties. It's really, really weird. But because of the Constitution protecting their gun rights in the U.S., it's even like I don't know if it's necessarily convinced a lot of left-wing people that they need to defend gun rights, but rather just that I think they've adopted the moniker of defending gun rights just because it's so built into their rights, no one would take them seriously if they were against guns. So in order to like get all of their other policies to be effective and to be able to get voted in, they just have to be like for guns essentially.
One guy explained that to me, and I think that made sense. It's if you're told that this is yours, this is your right for I don't know how many years, right?
Yeah.
And then someone wants to take that away. It's not really about the point. Like it's not really about what is going to be taken away. It's about that someone takes something away from you that you were told is yours for like how many generations.
Yeah, exactly.
And I understand the I don't know what amendment it is, but I think it's a beautiful idea as well, but it's just out of time. Like basically when the
outdated,
Constitution, when the Constitution was formed, it's like the people should have the power to
oppose the government.
Oppose the government, yeah.
Some clowns with guns against U.S. military. Let's go.
Yeah,
I know.
I mean,
they're so delusional now. Do you think if the government wanted to overtake you, they wouldn't just bomb the fuck out of you, you dumb fucks?
Yeah, but I mean, in that time, I think it was a nice idea. It's a beautiful idea.
Yeah, for sure.
Just outdated. But I don't know. I don't agree with everybody having a gun in the US, and to be honest, they don't.
I mean, I feel like the thing that everyone has a gun is also something that is maybe not causing, but strongly encouraging like all those like violence against black people. Because
yeah, it
black
definitely
people
doesn't
are
help.
usually those that are criminal, right?
Yeah.
Or like when it comes to criminals, it's like most of the time a black person, right? So if you go into a poor neighborhood and you're a police officer and you have to stop a black guy, then you're definitely more careful than if you would stop a white guy in a very rich environment, right?
Yeah, exactly. They're more prone to like assuming like negative intentions from black people when they pull them over, and so they're more cautious. They're more trigger happy because of that. It's really shitty.
But that's isn't that not just an ethnicity? It's more than a.
It's socioeconomics that determine that. When you look at other
exactly.
countries that are predominantly white and that have poor populations, you see the exact same statistics from violence and like crime rates and stuff. Yeah, you're exactly right.
But to some extent, isn't that justified?
Well, it depends on what you mean by justified. Maybe it's justified for that individual to feel a little bit like more scarce, but for us as a society to do nothing to like properly address this violence and allow it to continue, I would say then it's not justified.
No, but I mean, I understand why police officers are more careful about going into those communities and pulling over.
Of course.
I mean, then at the end of the day, he's a person or she's a person that just want to get home to his or her family.
Yeah. In Germany, it's actually the complete opposite sometimes. Like people want the police to be more violent.
Yeah, but I could go down for that in Sweden. In some cases, but it's so hard. You know, like I don't want the police to be hard on me, right? But
I don't know. Like I had experience with the police where I was actually who am I talking to? Like fucking like I never had the feeling that the police can do anything to me, right?
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Like growing up, at least.
And we have basically the hunters situation in Sweden is really infected about the police hunting, chasing down on illegal gun owners. Basically, there was just a case like 3 weeks ago where this hunter in the north of Sweden he had spoken about the wolves, and he doesn't think that they are good and he thinks that they should be put down. He was arrested with like 30 cops coming into his home, and he was stripped of all his guns. He hadn't done anything, but he was charged for first having killed a wolf. Then they changed it to planning to kill a wolf, because there was basically no evidence. And the court actually ruled that they gave a huge boot to the police attorney for basically arresting him on his political views.
That's good. That's the legal system doing something good, right? That's addressing like probably corruption or whatever. That's exactly what we want to see.
Yeah, and they illegally wiretapped him as well. And it was so. That just makes you think about Sweden. Oh, is it really that great? As everybody says.
Well, it depends on what you're comparing. When a lot of people say Sweden is good, they're talking about like general socioeconomic conditions based on progressive policies and the implementation of them and stuff. Especially compared to places like the U.S., which have a lot of problems.
But it's also living standard, right? Like living standard doesn't only mean like how big is your house and how fast can your car drive, right?
Yeah, I think
mean, for example,
is
like
how happy
something
you
I really value about Germany is that I can go outside whenever I fucking want without being scared of getting robbed or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure.
I can walk wherever I want at what time whatever I want, right? Like like
I don't know if I'm an uncertain individual, but I never felt that way in Sweden, or not in the big towns.
Right.
Really?
Like taking a bus home. So I really get like the conversation about women not feeling safe. In the public area, really, because I've been robbed once, and I have my friend robbed, and like
just rob them as well.
Yeah.
No, that'll shape your worldview. That's a traumatic experience. Yeah,
for sure. And like me getting on the bus and in the night or in the evening, seeing a group of guys, that really makes it uncomfortable for me. And I guess that's something that's not discussed. It's mostly women that's being lifted into the debate.
Yeah.
But while males are more prone to be victim of domestic or robbery they end up in more fights basically.
Okay.
It's the same here actually. Like as a woman, you might get like one or two slur words, right? But as a male, like the chance of actually getting physically attacked is much higher.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's unjusted that women doesn't all get raped. Yeah, that's not what I'm saying, but it's not being lifted that men are being robbed and beaten up in a higher
number
rate.
Yeah, it's that would be like disproportionate rates, I guess, whatever. Yeah, both of these things like are like separate kind of instances that may have been caused by similar reasons, maybe cultural things and stuff, and both of those things like equally need to be addressed essentially. And what you're describing is that essentially the focus is a lot more on like female and rape issues and stuff, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think the Swedish left-standers have hijacked the conversation, and all doesn't like. Basically, we have the politicians, not even the left one, basically the red one, saying like, why should a woman treat up with all the white male, with the male that's driving his jeep? Why does she gotta take the bus? Why does he get to eat meat when she just have to take a salad, basically?
Right.
That was actually a conversation or a speech given by not even Yeah, by the rest.
Does that seem like realistically representative of how the situation is in Sweden? Or
No, I would not say that. Sure,
because that sounds
there are-
crazy to me, but I mean I'm from Canada,
Yeah.
so I don't know how actually it is over there.
No, it's totally unjust in my opinion. Like
hmm
to call out that all wild males are driving a jeep and eating red meat.
That's
What
kind
the
of
fuck, mate?
oddly specific, hey?
Yeah. But there were multiple of these.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No,
made
but
up.
Yeah,
I
it-
hear that a lot from other specific other Swedes, that Swedes are kind of beating each other up, like emotionally on a political scale.
Yeah.
No, he said
I
Swedes
mean,
are beating each other off.
Oh.
Well, no, Flap doesn't say that.
Must just be him then.
Mainly, he says that he hates all Swedes. That's a different thing.
So
Like I always thought like Sweden, Finland, and all the Scandinavian countries are pretty much the same as Germany and Austria and Netherlands and stuff.
You'll have a lot of like similarities. Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah. Of course, we have a. I think we're all tend to be more social, economical countries.
More
where
reasonable.
Yeah.
You're. I think you guys are more. I think it's economically left. Probably socially left too. I'm sure you're both. But
Yeah.
Both, I guess. I don't know. I honestly think that, like, for example, for me personally, like, this is a personal take, right?
Yeah.
But if I were to have to change my country, right?
Mhm.
I think there are not many countries I actually would live in. Like, it's basically only like Scandinavian countries and
Yeah.
Central European, right? Like,
I think I
like,
feel
not even
similar
UK. UK
feelings.
is fucking like awful. But like, for example, like Netherlands, some probably. Then
Yeah.
Austria, Switzerland, Germany, and Scandinavian countries, and maybe Ireland. Ireland's also okay.
Yeah.
But this is like the end, right? Like I like me personally would never move to Canada, or
Yeah. I feel you.
not even speaking of USA.
Yeah, I
Could
think
never
that like
do
there's lots of cool things in the US, but living there and being a citizen would probably make my like personal happiness decline like significantly, or at least my mathematical odds of it declining are high, because I'd have to be like wealthy living in the US in order to have like a good time, right? Or like reasonably wealthy, you know, like just living like a what's the word, like an average life in Canada versus an average life in the US. I feel like my average life in Canada is much better, so I don't think I could actually move to the US.
True.
But yeah, I would probably consider things like Scandinavian countries, like you said. That seems much preferable.
Yeah. But there's another thing, like when it comes to police.
Yeah.
Like, how do I say that? In Sweden, right? Like, if you're police in Sweden,
Yeah.
is it very common for them to be like authoritarian?
I can't really speak up for that. I don't think so.
Have you ever been like in contact with the police in a negative way?
Yeah, for sure.
And what did you do?
Like basically, yeah, it's basically when I was younger and having like attending this like underage and drinking, and the police come because someone passed out in the ambulance, and police came, and basically they're
No, but what I mean is like you never have done anything illegal, right?
No. Yeah, I have done it once, and then I had a really good experience with the place. We have this, I don't know what it's called in English, but it's a moped. Basically, when you're 15, you can drive a moped.
Yeah.
And you guys used to like engineer those so they go faster, which is illegal. And I was stopped, or a friend was driving and he was stopped, and he was like, "Yeah, guys, it's illegal. I could withdraw your driver's license and I could just do this. But come on, guys, let's be real about this. It's illegal. You can't do it. So go home and change it, basically. And that's I'm not saying that I think the police is bad or good. In Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're. Let me just give you a second to wrap up this conversation up. I think the police is hard on those who doesn't on those who doesn't stand up for it, for the and the legal citizens, and I think they're quite soft when being opposed. That's I think that sums up quite good.
But you're
think
also
that makes
like a Swede, right?
Yeah.
Like you're not an immigrant or something.
No. I'm an ethnical looking Swede, if you would like to say that.
Pure blood.
I mean, I'm not an ethical looking German, right? So like I probably like, if you just look at me, I would probably fit into the stereotype of a criminal German, right? Like just from my heritage and stuff, right? Like my father comes from the Middle East, and most of the time the people who are criminal in Germany are from the Middle East, right? But actually, like every time I got in contact with the police, right, I had the feeling I'm talking to sheep. You know? Like it's very strange because like cheap is maybe the wrong word, right? But it's like I never had the feeling that I'm like talking to someone who can just like lock me up, you know?
Yeah.
It was always like, it's always weird. Like once I got catched with like marijuana, right? And then like the only thing I was concerned about is like how long it takes. So like how long do I have to talk to them until I can go back to drinking, right? And this was actually the only thing I asked them all the time. And they were like, yeah, you just need to like fill out this formula, blah 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 blah. And I was like lecturing them on how much taxes this shit costs and how you.
Yeah, being like passively. I'm a really a supporter of the Swedish police. I think they should get better wages and such. And it was on a Facebook group there. It was posted that he was giving a littering ticket for pissing in public, and his notes was basically his pays your taxes so he can piss wherever he wants. If you get one.
Amazing.
I'm a hop out. I'm gonna go to bed.
Cool.
Yeah.
You guys have yourselves the rest of a good evening, and I'll catch you all next time.
Yeah, I think I'll probably hop out too now. I'm gonna go eat some din din.
I mean, makes sense. Like for us, it's also like 7 in the mornings.
Yeah, it's like almost midnight. I guess it's 11 p.m. So it's time for late supper, baby.
I don't know when we started this, but my stream has been on for 5.5 hours.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I guess we talked like 2 hours before that.
Yeah.
Or not, if not more.
It's a long one.
So, yeah.
It was a fun one.
Definitely.
Yeah, true.
That
was awesome, though.
Definitely an experience. I think I altered my course to more left during this night.
Yeah, I mean, you guys seem fairly progressive, so it kind of makes sense. Like, you might appear more like right-leaning, like you said in Sweden, but that's just because like Sweden is already so, or like Germany, but like they're already like fairly progressive places in comparison, so kind of makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you guys.
Hell yeah! Thanks for having us on.
Thank you, Comical.
Have a good night, guys.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
OP. See here. Cool. Well, we definitely did not do anything to do with the fucking rally stuff. But that was fun. Good talk. Well, maybe we'll do some more tomorrow. I guess it depends on if Cordell has any free time tomorrow. So, cool. Okay, well, I'm peeling out for the night. Peace out, amigos. Have a good one.